The live stream has started. 4 minutes to air.
I'll go ahead and move that over there.
Okay. I see what you're saying. That's like at the end.
Oh, yeah, it's at the end.
Okay, so yeah, but it's really free.
3 minutes to air.
2:45.
Two minutes to air. One minute to air and your last verbal cue.
Good evening and welcome to the Durham Planning Commission. The members of the Durham Planning Commission are appointed by City Council and the County Board of Commissioners to make recommendations to the elected officials. We emphasize that the elected officials have the final say on any issue before us tonight. If you are attending in person and wish to speak on a particular agenda item, please register on the sign-up sheets located on the table to my left. You will be called upon to make your comments at the appropriate time. You may also call in during the meeting by dialing 1-301-715-8592. If you call in during the meeting, you will need to wait until the particular public hearing you are interested in starts. After all of the pre-registered speakers have shared their comments, I will ask if there is anyone else wishing to speak. At that point, you will need to digitally raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. And when recognized, state your name and address before making your comments. The applicant has a total of 10 minutes for their presentation. Each speaker after the applicant has 2 minutes to speak. Commissioners will be given 5 minutes for Q&A, and please keep your comments succinct. Commissioners, as a reminder, after the public hearing is closed, you obtain the floor by being recognized by the chair. The time to make all public statements is before motions are made. All motions are stated in the affirmative, so if a motion fails or ties, the recommendation is for denial. After the case you are here for ends, please exit the chambers quietly and pursue further discussion in the lobby as the Commission continues its meeting. Finally, I ask everyone here on the Zoom, the Commission members, the staff, and the public to conduct themselves in a courteous and respectful manner. If someone fails to act in that manner, the chair will ask the offending person or persons to be muted on the Zoom or asked to leave the council chambers until such time they regain personal control. If decorum fails to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until a genuine commitment to act respectful and courteous is observed. May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Shigaris.
Here.
Vice Chair Cameron.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Capers.
Here.
Commissioner Chakowski.
Here.
Commissioner Hunter.
Here.
Commissioner Juarez Maldonado. Commissioner McIver. Commissioner Montez.
Here.
Commissioner Neinkirchner. Commissioner Ritchie.
Here.
Commissioner Piontek.
Here.
Commissioner Woke.
Here.
A quorum has been achieved. Before we move on to the next items, I'd like to just state for the record that all items before you tonight have been advertised in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits to that effect are on file in the Planning Department.
Thank you. Item number 3, there are no adjustments to the agenda. Item number 4, approval of the minutes and consistency statements. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes and consistency statement.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to approve the minutes and consistency statements. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. The ayes have it. Item number 5 on the agenda, public hearings, zoning map changes, Z25-004, Sharon Road, assemblage. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you. Chair Shigaris, Vice Chair Cameron, and honorable commission members. My name is Andy Lester, the Planning and Development Department. I'm here to present Z25-00004, Sharon Road assemblage. This proposal includes the rezoning of 2 parcels of land totaling 11.31 acres and located at 2007 and 2013 Sharon Road. The existing zoning is industrial light with a development plan, residential suburban 20, and residential rural. The applicant proposes to change the designation to planned development residential 34.426 and commercial general with a development plan to allow up to 294 apartment units and associated non-residential uses. The existing place type is highway commercial. Staff recommends place type change to mixed residential neighborhood due to the proposal being inconsistent with the current place type. The existing zoning is industrial light with a development plan, residential suburban 20, and residential rural. The site is surrounded by residential uses and zoning to the northwest and east. To the south are light industrial and commercial uses along US 70. This area map shows the general location of the project. The property is currently designated highway commercial on the place type map. The proposed zoning is inconsistent with the designated place type. If the proposed zoning is approved, staff recommends the place type of mixed residential neighborhood. The applicant has included several text commitments, including a limit to impervious surface coverage, native plantings, and income-restricted housing, among others. Neighborhood meetings were held in accordance with the neighborhood meeting guidelines of March 18th and December 18th, 2025. 4 comments have been submitted to the Durham Rezoning Explorer in relation to this case. All are against the proposal. As stated earlier, the proposal is inconsistent with the place type map, designation of highway commercial. If the zoning map change is approved, staff recommends a new place type to mixed residential neighborhood. And the proposal is consistent with 22 of 27 applicable comprehensive plan policies. Thank you, staff, and the applicant are here for any questions.
Thank you. Can we amend the roll call to show that Commissioner Neinkirkner has shown up? Thank you. The chair is now opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant, please?
Thank you, Mr. Lesser, for your presentation, and good evening, Chair Shigaris, Vice Chair Cameron, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Neil Ghosh, an attorney with the Morningstar Law Group at 700 West Main Street, and I'm representing Middleburg communities for the proposed rezoning here. So I thought I would start by explaining perhaps the confusing aspect of this request. To be clear, we are pursuing this rezoning for a residential project. And so you might be wondering, why does the request include non-residential? And the answer is because the non-residential use already is there. You can see in aerial images of the map that the southern parcel of our assemblage already has a driveway, a stormwater pond, and some other stuff on it, which currently serve the existing storage business to the south. All of that stuff is going to stay. And in fact, our project intends to utilize the same driveway, the stormwater pond, et cetera. So in order for that parcel to be able to serve both the existing storage business and the proposed apartments, we had to rezone it to a district which allows both residential and commercial uses as principal uses. That's why that's in there. But my client here is pursuing, strictly speaking, residential development. And at the end of the day, that's what this project is. And on top of that, it's a really good residential project. As outlined in the staff report, the project is consistent with 22 out of 24 applicable policies. There are 3 that are still under review regarding utilities and fiscal impact analysis. Those are undetermined at this time, but we have no reason to believe the project will not be consistent with those. And you know, that's not by accident. The applicant here has been very deliberate in letting the comprehensive plan, the UDO, and the review process shape the project. At full build-out, this is 294 apartments. We've committed to 5% of those being affordable, which roughly is 15 units. We also have committed to using native plantings, meeting Energy Star multifamily new construction program certification requirements. We've capped the height at 60 feet, and so that could be 4 or 5 stories for a building that tall. For accessibility, we therefore have committed to having elevators, and we've committed to $40,000 to go to Durham Public Schools. Now, the main thing that came up in our neighborhood meeting was a concern over traffic, and I totally get it. Admittedly, there is somewhat of an unusual situation with Brightleaf at the park just north of us. There is what can only be described as a rather large entrance to the neighborhood off Sharon Road just to our north. And for whatever reason, not only is there no light at that entrance, but Sharon Road is not median divided in that location either. My guess is that is probably intentional, but I don't really know why. But because of that, during peak hours, you basically can't turn left out of Brightleaf at the park from that entrance onto Sharon Road. And unfortunately, there's nothing that this project can do to fix that. while our site does back up to some of the houses in that neighborhood was developed in a way where we cannot provide further connectivity. And that's really a shame because there actually is a light at our entrance. And we will, modify the signal timing on that light to accommodate the traffic produced by this project. But there's really nothing we can do on our project to try to address the existing traffic concern that the neighbors raised to us. And it's important to know, and you can see in your staff report, that both impacted roads have excess capacity. So this isn't a capacity issue. I'm not a traffic engineer, but in my mind, this particular issue is maybe a design issue or something like that. But the numbers in the staff report show this project is not causing a traffic problem. And it also is the case that we've looked at it. There's not really anything we can do to address a traffic problem. Wow. I've only been doing this for I don't know how long, so I'm embarrassed. Sorry, so as with most projects, in conjunction with road widening along our frontage, we're providing a 10-foot wide shared facility to accommodate bike and pedestrian traffic. We also have made a commitment to try to fill the existing sidewalk gap to our north, provided there is adequate right-of-way to do so. I think that's about a 60-foot gap, linear feet gap, and it would be nice to be able to close that to further complete the pedestrian network. In my experience, this type of off-site sidewalk commitment is pretty rare, so I thought it was worth highlighting. And then finally, I want to touch on the Lick Creek Trail. This is a planned trail that doesn't yet exist, and a portion of it goes all the way from Sharon Road through this property. In fact, I think I would probably call that the trailhead. The terminus is along Sharon Road. The applicant has committed to building a portion of that trail, which is pretty exciting to me, because they're not just going to dedicate the right-of-way for the trail, they plan to build that section of the trail from Sharon Road through the property. And of course, that's not a very long section, but it is a start and a great addition for the city. So really, that's it in a nutshell. It's a dense, thoughtful project. It's got a little bit of everything, and I think that it will add important housing stock to the city. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions and comments about the project. And Happy New Year, everyone. I'll learn how to use the mic eventually.
Thank you. Is Joe Lunn?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Joe Lunny. I live at 6 Wooten Court, which is just adjacent to the project area. I am respectfully asking that you deny this zoning. And at 7:45 this morning, and I don't know if you can see it on this camera or not, I'll hold it up real quickly. That was traffic on Sharon Road. That's backed up about a half mile to where my property is, which is just at the southern Golden Belt Parkway entrance. And this is how it looked facing north, moving up around Ashton Hall. So I think there are definitely traffic concerns that need to be taken into account here. Mineral Springs and Sharon work as a funnel, and the confluence is right where the exit for this apartment complex is planned to go. I don't think that's a good idea to introduce more traffic at that area. So I think the other part, if you look at the NCDOT long-term traffic plan for the intersection at Miami and Sharon, they're planning on an interchange, not an intersection. And a couple of those proposals have ramps going off that would landlock this development. So with that, thank you for your time. I kindly ask that you deny this rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there Carolyn Arios?
Thank you to the Planning Commission for allowing the residents to represent. I just want to reinforce what Joe has said. I also live in Brightleaf at the park, and I'm a resident. And there's at least five new neighborhoods being built around our neighborhood. And we as residents feel like we need the opportunity to engage further on the traffic issues that are happening for us. We can't get out of our neighborhood. We've reached out 2 weeks ago to Shanetta Burris, our new ward representative, to further engage on this matter. Would also appreciate if you would deny this and also give our neighborhood more of an opportunity to engage on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person wishing to speak on this item? There. All right, Zoom, Tom Campion.
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name
Oh,
and address for the record.
my name is Tom Campion. I live at 5 Pearl Mill Court. That is within the Brightleaf neighborhood. Going back to what Joe was saying about the traffic, we were told originally that because of the size of this project, there wouldn't need to be a traffic study. I believe this is a loophole for the developers because this does not take into account the amount of other developments going on further down Sharon. So once those are up and ready to go, traffic coming further down from Sharon is going to impact this greatly, not even counting this new project. I also ask you to deny this rezoning.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, is that a malfunction of the, no, all right. Anyone else on the Zoom wishing to speak, please use the raise your hand. Lori Rise.
Good evening. This is Lori Reese. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your address for the record.
It's 1904 Patterson's Mill Road, and I am inside Brightleaf at the park as well. And I have been engaged with the Morningstar Group on both of the neighborhood meetings and have a summary of the different concerns. Obviously, traffic, as we've mentioned, is the #1 concern. A lot of that is around the safety, and I would say, obviously, we want the owner of this property to be able to develop. I think the concern is really around the density. So when we're talking about 294, that's a lot of additional vehicles on the road we don't believe can be handled. And today, we do not have the ability, because of the additional traffic flowing from South Mineral Springs, we do not have the ability to even get to the light at Highway 70. I would also mention that there is concern about emergency vehicles being able to address our neighborhood. And as was mentioned by the other residents, there's a lot of development going on that is not even already on the road yet that we know will come on the road. The other concerns were really around environmental impact, the lack of infrastructure and amenities to support all of this. Again, we believe a $40,000 commitment to schools is great, but I do think 294 residents will have a lot more need within the school system. And the concern around creating buffers with those neighboring properties. You can imagine something 60 feet tall is going to be looking directly into the backs of our houses, and lights and noise and all of those things that I don't believe that the developer can really address sufficiently. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys hearing from us. And we do not support the current proposal.
Thank you. Kelsey Miller.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your address for the record.
This is Kelsey Miller. I live at 1608 Patterson's Mill Road in Brightleaf at the park. I echo my neighbor's sentiments. I urge you to deny this rezoning request. And I also urge, if you continue forward, to conduct a traffic study. Traffic is a major issue that we deal with. And like others have said before, there's a lot of new development going on Sharon Road, That's not completed yet, so we don't know what the full traffic effect will be. I can tell you, it can take 10 minutes to turn left out of Golden Belt Parkway, trying to get through that intersection with 70. That's 10 minutes there. And you see people have to conduct illegal maneuvers or legally dubious traffic maneuvers trying to get through all this traffic in the morning or afternoon. That backup can extend almost a mile to Ashton Glen Road. And so I think there should be a traffic study. Even when you're trying to go north on Sharon Road to 98, people are slowing down because they're turning into Burger King or that storage unit or to Pizza Hut. And so there's going to be a new development with 294 units. How is that going to affect traffic either way? And so I urge you to deny this rezoning, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Kristen Shuk.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Cook. I live at 5 Pearl Mill Court, Brightleaf at the Park. Thank you so much for allowing my neighbors and I to share our strong sentiment towards not approving this project. I also want to just echo, this is not just about 10 minutes or a headache. I know we live in an area that is a wonderful place where people want to live and move to from all over. I want to reiterate the safety piece of this for those that are in the cars, those that are in all of the neighborhoods, those are that to come that are going to be driving from the neighborhoods down Sharon Road within Brightleaf at the park that are under construction for their safety. People are having to make really poor decisions to try to access Sharon Road. I'm also concerned about school buses, pedestrians, as well as emergency vehicles. And I do think we welcome the need for affordable and enough housing, but I think we have to really use your discretion at if the infrastructure can safely support that. And I think you've heard from all of those that live and drive these roads every single day that this is a true concern for the safety of the current residents and those that will fill the already the houses that are under construction and apartments and townhomes down Sharon and within Brightleaf. So again, along with my neighbors, I urge you to please do not approve the rezoning of this piece of land for the safety of those who may live there and the safety of those who currently live around the area and use Sharon Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the Zoom wishing to speak? Harry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your address for the record.
Yes, it's Harry Babwa, and the address is 1920 Patterson's Mill Road, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I realize the developer may not be a cause of some of the traffic issues, but it certainly is going to compound the issues and make it difficult for the residents here. So that's one of the main reasons I would oppose, at least I would recommend that you deny or oppose this development. Plus, there's a density already in the area. I'm looking at the environmental impact, particularly along Lick Creek there, and the noise. So those are some of the things that I'm looking for. I'm not opposed to development, but it has to be a win for everybody. This might not be the property that that type of development would be a fit for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the Zoom wishing to speak on this item? Nope, not seeing anybody raising their hand. All right, the public hearing is now closed. We are now open for commissioner discussion. Any commissioner comments, questions, discussion? Commissioner Ritchie.
Question for the applicant. I think we're getting accustomed.
Oh, right, you're supposed to do.
If we're going to open the public hearing back up, would the applicant care to respond to the concerns of the citizens?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just address quickly. I think you heard, as I alluded to earlier, the number one concern we heard about is related to traffic. And there's, I assure you, there's no loophole here. The project's traffic impacts were evaluated by the city, and the city determined that a traffic impact analysis wouldn't be required. That doesn't mean that we didn't look at traffic issue, and I'll just verify, because I confirmed for myself that, that exit out of Brightleaf is a problem. But this project is actually, I would argue this project is actually the ideal location for a project because it exits at a light. And while this project will have 2 points of access, one is at a light, which will allow traffic to turn left onto Sharon Road. And the other one, which is a little bit further north of the light, is going to be a right in, right out. So no one would be trying to turn left out of that entrance. The problem with the Brightleaf exit is that it's supposed to be a full access movement, yet there's no light and there's extensive traffic on Sharon Road. That's exactly why this project works for, this use or another use is because there is a light at this project. Not at 70, it's at this project. And then there's another light at 70, just to be clear if you haven't been out there. I want to acknowledge the traffic concern. We know that it's real. We know that it exists. This project isn't producing, that traffic issue. It already exists. And in fairness, we did look at ways to try to address that issue, but Brightleaf was developed in a way that we can't actually provide additional connectivity through our site that would have potentially brought traffic from Brightleaf through our site to a light to facilitate that left turn movement. We can't do it because everything on that we back up to is essentially the back of a cul-de-sac. So, we can't address it, but we did look at it, and that's where this project ended up. So I'll end it there. I'll also just stay up here because it sounds like there might be a question.
Thank you. Closing the public hearing. Commissioner Ritchie, what were your questions?
Yeah, I think, have gotten accustomed to seeing more like 8% affordable commitment in developments of this size. And I think that that's an opportunity for us to continue to grow in that way as a community. So I want to know about the opportunity with this to push this up to more like 25 units that are committed to affordability. And then also I think that there's an opportunity for us to grow beyond the 30-year mark, which has been sort of standard, and push for slightly longer affordability terms. So curious about a 8% 40-year affordability commitment as opposed to the one currently.
Okay, and I want to make sure you're talking about the 80% AMI level. Yeah. You're wondering if that's something that we could look at to.
Yeah, if you can grow towards an 8% 40-year at 80% AMI.
Oh, okay, because we are at 5% of the units.
For 30.
Okay, all right, sorry. I'm just trying to make sure.
Sorry.
Got it. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what the ask is. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. It might be the mic.
That might be me. I have a 6-week-old baby, everyone. I cannot speak. But yeah, so the question is, what's the capacity for 8% of the units being affordable at 80% AMI for 40 years?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer. It's something that I can take to my client, right? It's something that I can ask them about. Definitely what we were looking at with the 30-year mark, that's the definition of affordable housing in the UDO. Also, it's generally how the LIHTC program works. Not that this is a LIHTC project, but that's where the 30-year came from. And the 5% number, I think they were looking aggressively at how to try to include affordable units. But I appreciate that there's always a need for affordable housing in Durham. There always has been, and so any additional affordable housing would be helpful.
Any other Commissioner Wook?
Hi, thank you. My question has to do with the 2 comprehensive plan policies that this project does not meet.
One is there's no public park within half a mile, and I understand you cannot manifest a park within half a mile of this project, but the other is tree coverage beyond the requirement of the UDO, which is something that perhaps you could move on.
Yeah, so looking at tree coverage, I mean, I think that's something that we can take a look at further. The part of the issue is that this is one rezoning case that has two different zoning districts. So as far as I understand, we have targeted, so the residential district requires more tree save than the commercial. So as far as I know, we've targeted a residential amount of tree save. But how to categorize that, I think, is a little bit unclear to us. And so, you know, correct, within the plan, what we have shown, or within the application, what we have discussed is what the UDO would require for residential development. And I think that we can take a look further to see if there's more tree save that can be provided. Obviously, it's a dense project, and so that is driving some of that issue as well.
Any other questions, commissioner comments? I have a question. So the main entrance is going to be at Sharon and Mineral Springs, and you're saying that that's a signalized light?
There are two access points on Sharon. I guess that is Mineral Springs across the way. There is a light at that. Where the existing driveway is, there is a light there.
And that's going to be the driveway, that's going to be the main entrance?
Correct.
Where's the second entrance going to be?
North of there, so, I mean, essentially as far north on our side as we can get. That section of Sharon Road is median divided. That will be right in, right out only.
And there's going to be a turn lane there? What are the commitments to that? If your main entrance is already going to be at a signalized intersection?
I think there is a turn lane for that right in, right out. A right turn lane, obviously, there wouldn't be a left turn lane.
Because that's where Sharon has the divider.
Correct.
So they can't turn left.
We're dedicating right of way to provide that. But that entrance is, I mean, frankly, you'd only be using that entrance to leave the site, because if you're entering the site, you would have passed the other entrance already to get there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Nope. May I have a motion to move case Z25 /04 Sharon Road assemblage forward with a favorable recommendation?
Chair Shigaris, in the case of Z25 /04 Sharon Road assemblage, I move that we move this case forward to City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to move this case forward with a favorable recommendation. May we have the electronic voting, please?
Okay, voting should be working now. We can. Oh, yeah, let's take that off, yeah. Okay. Chair Shigaris.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cameron.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
No.
Commissioner Capers.
No.
Commissioner Chakowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
No.
Commissioner Montez,
No.
Commissioner Neinkirkner,
No.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek,
Yes.
Commissioner Woke.
No.
Okay, my Excel formula is not working, so hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion fails 6-5.
Next item on the agenda, Z25-08, Preserve at Infinity. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you. Okay. The proposal includes the rezoning of 2 parcels of land totaling 18.161 acres and located at 301 and 401 Infinity Road. The existing zoning is residential suburban 20. The applicant proposes to change this designation to planned development residential and office institutional with a textual development plan to allow up to 90 multifamily units and 5,000 square feet of non-residential space. The existing place type is transit opportunity area, mixed residential neighborhood, and recreation and open space. The proposal is generally consistent with the place type, and no change to the place type map would be required if approved. The existing zoning is residential suburban 20. The site is surrounded by residential zoning districts of varying densities. Here's the aerial map that shows the general location of the property. The property is designated transit opportunity area, mixed residential neighborhood, and recreation and open space on the place type map. The proposed zoning was determined consistent with the designated place types. The applicant has included a number of text amendments regarding environmental preservation, housing affordability, and limits on drive-throughs. The applicant held neighborhood meetings on April 24th and December 11th, 2025. There are 16 comments on the Durham Rezoning Explorer. All are against the proposal. Staff determines that this request is consistent with the place type map and 22 of 25 comprehensive plan policies. Staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair is now opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant, please?
Good evening, Chair Chigueras, Vice Chair Cameron, and members of the commission. My name is Marie Farmer with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, here on behalf of the applicant and property owner. I am joined tonight by the project's landscape architect, Jeremy Anderson with Thomas & Hutton, and Jeff Hawkendale, the project's traffic engineer with Timmons Group. Jeff was hired by the applicant and is with us tonight because the applicant did want to better understand the development's traffic impacts based on community feedback, despite the size of this proposed development, which falls well below the thresholds for a TIA. So both Jeremy and Jeff will be available to answer questions this evening. The property owner bringing this proposal tonight is a local resident with a small family business that has owned the property for many years and has partnered with 2 friends to develop the site. While this is not what they do full-time, through their family business, they have site work experience with both private and municipal projects, including with the City of Durham, and will complete the horizontal site work for this development while looking for a partner to complete the vertical build. The applicant is excited for the opportunity to take on this project, which offers a new housing type within close proximity to existing food, retail, parks, trails, and transit with environmental and income-restricted commitments. So again, this request is to rezone 2 parcels within the city limits along Infinity Road just east of the intersection of North Roxborough Street and Infinity. The total acreage for the property is a little over 18 acres, but the actual developable area is much smaller given the environmental features that are located on the site, which will require a 100-foot stream buffer and the voluntary environmental commitments made, including the 25% tree coverage. As a result, approximately 35% of the site will remain undeveloped. The current zoning on the site is residential suburban 20, and the applicant is requesting planned development residential and office and institutional with a textual development plan, which will allow for a small-scale mixed-use project with townhouses and small office consistent with the comprehensive plan. The place type map does identify 3 different designations for this site: transit opportunity area, mixed residential neighborhood, and recreation and open space. So we will just touch on each of those 3 designations briefly. The transit opportunity area describes moderately sized places found throughout the community at the junction of major transit stops with development that supports the use of transit. These areas are described as important for connecting neighborhoods to transit service and transit riders to where they need to go without using a car. The design of these areas should include buildings located close together with a mix of uses, easy access to the street, and designed to serve the daily needs of residents. Development of these areas should seek to find spaces that are already served by transit, filling in vacant lots or parking lots, and protecting natural spaces that preserve environmental resources. The mixed residential neighborhood describes neighborhoods built on previously undeveloped or forested land, designed to add a diversity of housing types at different price points and densities, with the primary use being residential, but allowing supporting commercial uses. Mixed residential neighborhoods smaller than 20 developable acres should increase the mix of housing types in the immediate vicinity. And then finally, the recreation and open space areas should remain free from development with the exception of minimal structures to support recreational activities. And so our proposal tonight does meet each of these designations because we are proposing a mix of uses, including new housing types, near existing single-family and commercial uses, and transit services, all while protecting the most environmentally sensitive areas of the site by clustering the buildings close together, ensuring that 50% of the open space that is provided will contain environmentally sensitive areas, and providing an additional 5% tree preservation over what is required by the UDO, and a 100-foot stream buffer that aligns with that recreation and open space that is identified on the site. Other key commitments that are offered by this proposal include existing floodplains and wetlands not being disturbed except for access, native trees being provided for new trees that are planted, variation in appearance for the residential units, active open space, again, income restricted units, 5% at 80% AMI for 30 years. And those will contain 2 or more bedrooms and be dispersed throughout and indistinguishable from the market rate units. And then finally, a $15,000 contribution to Durham Public Schools. Additionally, the applicant has added a text commitment to provide a pedestrian crosswalk with accommodations for safe crossing at Windermere Drive in response to feedback received from neighbors, city staff, and BPAC. If approved by DOT, this will provide residents pedestrian access to the parks and trails on the other side of Infinity Road that you can see here on the screen. This request is consistent with 22 of 25 applicable policies of the comprehensive plan. We're consistent with 6 of those policies by meeting those standards and 16 policies by exceeding those standards. We are also consistent with 3 out of the 4 applicable transit opportunity area policies by providing income restricted units in a location near jobs, services, and transit, and a mix of uses at a neighborhood-oriented scale. And so finally, this rezoning is consistent with the review criteria in the UDO. This proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's compatible with the zoning and conforming uses of nearby property. It will improve the balance of uses in the area by providing new housing types and non-residential that will meet demand here in Durham, and there is adequate infrastructure available to support the proposed development. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do community members in person, Jeff Hochendal? Okay, so Samantha Boyd, Jeremy Anderson, Marie Farmer, these are all parts of the team. Jax Ebston, part of the team, or is, nope, okay.
Hello, my name is Jax Epston, and I live in Hickory Ridge, so the neighborhood just north of this proposed rezoning. And me and my neighbors are pretty concerned about this as currently proposed. So first, we all know we need affordable housing. This isn't necessarily addressing that issue. Only 5 affordable units at 80% AMI is not sufficient. And affordability is very an issue in the census tract. The plan notes that 67.9% of renters are cost burden, which is more than the county average. So these developments could really drive up the cost for folks and potentially displace. I also just want to say that as someone who lives in the area, the current built environment and infrastructure is absolutely cannot handle these developments, especially in conjunction with the other proposed development right next door adjacent. We need improvements there first. We need safer ways to walk, bike to our schools, libraries, and businesses. There are no sidewalks. There are no crosswalks near this development or for the surrounding neighbors. And one crosswalk is not going to be sufficient to fix that issue. So it's hard to see how this development in conjunction with the other proposed rezoning right next door is going to support the people of Durham. There are 176 townhomes going in at Latta Park about a mile away, 300 units going in about 2 miles south on Duke Street. Rental vacancy remains higher. So unless this development is going to be actual affordable housing and improve the area's infrastructure and traffic, it's really not needed as proposed. So this feels like developments for development's sake, and not every parcel of land in Durham needs to be developed. And it's not bringing the housing, transportation improvements, or green space that we need to Durham. So I ask that you deny this proposal as written, and I'm sure a lot of people on Zoom are going to share more about the traffic issues, which there are many, many, many at that intersection. Thank you.
Thank you. Any community members on Zoom? Use the raise your, Vanessa Safi.
Hello. My name is Vanessa Safi. I am a resident at 413 Crestview Drive in Durham, the same Hickory Ridge neighborhood that is just north of this proposed development. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. Sorry. I didn't want to keep going if nobody could hear me. The concerns that I come to you with this evening are more so directed around the schools. For example, the adjacent middle school, Carrington, is currently at 96% capacity. And I don't really know, like, there's no way to know who will move in, but essentially this has always been a very family-friendly neighborhood, and adding to that number specifically feels like it should be looked at. But I also mostly wanted to speak in support of the development, given some conditions. The percentage of affordable units and the percentage by which they are deemed affordable does seem both low and high. A higher percentage of affordable units would be more beneficial, and lowering the AMI percentage. I was wondering if there is any way to increase the percentage of undeveloped land on the property. I do support the crosswalk, but also the recommendations from the bike was it BPAC about bike lanes and making it like fully accessible. Because sure, the report can say that they are half a mile within a park, but you can't actually walk to any park from that corner, not without risking life and limb. So any support from the developer on actually being able to get to a green destination would be well received. And any work that they can do in conjunction with the adjacent development around transportation and crosswalks would be also well received. Thank you.
Thank you. Madeline Eldridge.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Madeline Eldridge, and I live at 115 Windermere Drive. And I wanted to say thank you, Madam Chair and the Planning Commission. So I live from where the Preserve Infinity development is taking place. I have strong concerns regarding this development. In July of 2025, my neighborhood area and the park behind it flooded considerably. I could see floodwater outside from my back porch, which sat flooding the entire park and multiple neighbors' homes. The water stayed in the park for months, and I'm concerned about the environmental impact of further flooding caused by further development. I do not support the current proposal and ask that you deny the zoning map request. I also am concerned that if you go forward, I would prefer that you have a far higher percentage of affordable housing, as others have mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the Zoom wishing to speak on this item? Carl Chmielewski.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Carl Chmielewski, 4917 Stevens Lane. I agree with everybody here, and I disagree with the proposal of this property. My two concerns are that under the current that they're submitting, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Administration Commission had recommended for this project that would better serve the need of the community, adopted plans, vision, zero goals, and the goals of the Durham Comprehensive Plan, that they recommend a 12-foot paved multi-use path with a 10-foot buffer from the road with trees lining the buffer. They have decided to only do a 10-foot shared path and no buffer. So that's one concern, is why aren't they doing what was recommended? The second one is in the 5,000 square foot building, they've only have in the proposal that they have submitted that no residential use except for drive-through. I think it's important in our communities with the neighbors Stevens Woods, Eno Trace, Vantage Point, River Forest, and all the North Durham. We're family oriented, and we really don't want to see any more, or we'd like to prohibit the use of any drive-through facility, nightclubs, bars, pay lenders, adult establishments, legal internet sweepstake cafes, manufacturing, or warehouses of any kind. So I'd like to see those two changes. And again, thank you for hearing my concerns, and I agree with everybody else that currently I don't support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Sturkey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to two of your staff that helped an aging Luddite get connected earlier today.
Can you please state your address for the record?
Sorry. 3 Wheatstone Court. What Carl just said about the restrictions, I want to echo. For Chick-fil-A, Z2500018, it talks about no nightclubs or bar, no indoor firing ranges, payday lenders, adult establishments. We'd like those same protections for our family-oriented neighborhoods. In looking at the executive summary that your staff prepared, they talk about a text commitment prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. It talks in point A, construct an exclusive eastbound left turn lane on Infinity Road at point A. Construct an exclusive eastbound left turn lane on Infinity Road at access point B. I can't on your map see where these points are, and there doesn't seem to be any information on who is building these and when. I'm hoping that there'll be infrastructure to increase traffic flow before all this gets built. Otherwise, you're just taking a pontoon fishing trip and agreeing only to go back to Walmart for life jackets if they're needed. Please do not let this go forward without the necessary infrastructure for roads and turns. The people in River Forest are going to be stuck not being able to make a left turn onto Infinity because of the increase in traffic. And there were a number of very good comments in the Durham Rezoning Explorer, which I hope y'all have read all 16 of them. I'm not going to read them because I don't have time, but one of the comments was that North Carolina Department of Transportation is no longer committed to improving the intersection. Without improvement, this will become more of a nightmare than it already is. So I ask that you do not approve this plan tonight. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Anybody else on the Zoom wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Nope, seeing nobody. Would the applicant care to respond to some of these concerns? Okay. Oh, Samantha Boyd, yes. Oh,
My
okay.
name is Samantha Boyd. I live in River Forest, 224 Omega Road. The NCDOT is suggesting they take High Meadow, which is our only access to go to the light and turn left on Roxborough Road. Omega Road, there's no left-hand turn. We asked for a light. I've been there since 1990. They made a sign saying no left turn instead. Windermere, we no longer have access to that road at all. The city, or I don't know who, blocked it off. And we basically would be entrapped in our own neighborhood. There has been increasing crime. I also mentioned that a lot of the people are fixed income. Taxes will be raised. My tax was doubled. I'm 64 years old and have yet to make $40,000 a year. So we couldn't afford these houses, whether they're affordable or what. But that's also the fear of my land, which I want to leave to my grandchildren and my descendants. I'm being taxed out of it. And everything looks good on paper, but think about it. Each house has 2 to 4 cars. We were told that there was no need to have a traffic study. It was a need. The trees that they're mentioning that are native, they're not shade trees. We had a flood. People were walking with the water up to their chest from the developments and stuff that's already gone forth. I've been there since 1990. Fran did not even make the water increase that high. My wall fell down in September from the rain. That was 2 weeks. We had one night and that flood increased to where people were afraid for their lives. And we didn't have flood insurance either. So I am the president of River Forest. Thank you. I thank you for listening. Please vote against this.
Thank you. Anybody else in the galley? Gallery wishing to speak on this? Okay, the applicant, would you care to respond?
Yes, there were quite a few things I will try to address as much as I can. First of all, with regard to affordability, I think as Commissioner Ritchie had mentioned for the project that was just heard before this one, commitment that is higher than 5% is more common or typical for projects at a higher density. I believe that the project that was just heard before this one was around 300 units. This project is well below 100 units. And so based on that density, being able to absorb the cost of subsidizing the units that are being provided would be much more difficult. As I'd also explained, the applicant for this project is not a seasoned developer. It is the property owner themselves that are looking to pursue this development. And so we are proud of the commitment for 5% at 80% AMI for 30 years that has been offered with this proposal. A comment was made about connectivity and that sidewalks should be incorporated or installed before the development it takes place. As the commissioners have probably seen from other projects, oftentimes the sidewalks and multi-use paths that are built within the city are through rezoning efforts and through the private investment of developers. That is often how the sidewalks and multi-use paths in the city get developed. And so not only will this project be providing a multi-use path, as was mentioned by a commentator, the project next door will also install a multi-use path, and then that will ultimately provide that full connection that will be made on Infinity Road to the intersection at Roxborough. So it will be through private investment, through projects like this, that those connections, and the connection here in particular, will be made. A comment was made with regard to the environmental commitments. And so again, I would just like to note, in particular, a comment was made about wanting more undisturbed area on this project. As I explained, 35% of this site will be undisturbed. And again, this is a fairly small site. It's around 18 acres. Again, we are providing 25% tree preservation, which is well over what is required by the UDO. There was a comment about schools, particularly the capacity of the middle school, which is the only school capacity that is above 90% in this area. This project will, according to the staff report, is proposed to potentially generate 5 students for the middle school in particular, so that is relatively low. As the commission knows, it is often common for developers to donate money to Durham Public Schools, around $500 per student. Here we are over $3,000 above the amount that would be based on those numbers. If there are any further questions, particularly as it relates to traffic, again, we do have our traffic engineer that's available. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. We are open for comments from commissioners, discussion. Any questions? Comments?
You have a hand back there. I think she wanted to talk.
Yes. Are we opening the public hearing?
I have to say really quick, there are no crosswalks or sidewalks at the intersection, so they will be connecting to nothing. I just need to make that clear for folks who are not familiar with this intersection. I just want to say that sometimes we're talking about minimums and policies, and sometimes the minimums just, they're not good enough. So I want us to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Any commissioner comments or questions? Commissioner Chakowski.
Thank you, Chair. A question for the applicant. Are there any additional sidewalk or crosswalk commitments that you're willing to make just to address some of the community concerns?
So we are providing the 10-foot multi-use path along the frontage, but that is the only property that this owner would be able to make improvements on. We would not be able to make improvements on property that they do not own or have control over.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? I have some questions for the applicant. Is there going to be a turn lane on the road?
So there will be, as I think one of the comments was made about the traffic improvements that are included with the text commitments. So you will see in the textual development plan, there are 3 different commitments regarding turn lanes that will be provided at the access points. I think there was some confusion with regard to the access points, so I can pull up on screen here. I think that this is the best way to illustrate. The residential portion of the site, which we are proposing to rezone to the PDR, that is the longer parcel in purple. So one access point would be provided to that parcel for the residential. And then the second access point would be the smaller parcel that is in the burnt orange color. That is where the second access would be located to access the small office development. And so turn lanes would be provided on Infinity Road at both access points. And there would be a 2-way left turn lane there, a continuous 2-way left turn lane.
And those 2 parts of the development are not going to be connected because of the recreation and open space?
That is, yeah, well, and that is where our 100-foot stream buffer will be located.
Okay, and can you address the concerns about what this commercial is going to be? Are you able to say it's not going to be any nightclubs or?
Yes, well, and I will let staff correct me if I'm wrong on any of the particular uses that are permitted, but I think that there is some confusion with regard to the uses that are permitted in the OI zoning district. And so only the uses that are listed in Durham's use table for the OI district would be permitted. And I think a lot of the uses that were mentioned by neighbors are not uses that would be permitted in the OI district. And then I think someone had mentioned the drive-throughs. We specifically listed in our text commitments that drive-throughs would not be permitted. But generally speaking, it is only office uses. There's very other limited uses that would be permitted in the OI. I'll let Andy.
Thank you. So the OI district is designed to limit a lot of the commercial uses that are found in a commercial general type zoning district. So what was talked about in terms of the Chick-fil-A in Roxborough, that is a commercial general rezoning that's limiting those electronic gaming operations, nightclubs and bars, and firing ranges. By design, the OI district does not include those uses. So.
Okay, thank you. And concerning the traffic, there is a proposal for another project on Roxborough that may abut the back of this. I don't know if you know this yet, is there a plan for connection? And if there is, because that would help alleviate some of this traffic coming all out on Infinity, is that been discussed?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the comments that we received during our review of this case from City Transportation was about the need for stub outs, both to the north and to the west. And so we will provide those stub outs at site plan. And that will provide that through connection for this property. So residents of this development, and then if that other development moves forward, there would be that through connection to Roxborough.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Nope. May I have a motion to move case Z25-08, preserve at Infinity, forward with a favorable recommendation?
Chair, regarding case Z25-08, preserve at Infinity, I move that we forward this case to City Council with a favorable recommendation for approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to move this case forward with a favorable recommendation. May we have old school style voting, please?
What?
Is it working? Okay. Seems to be working, so we're going to try the electronic version this time.
Okay, open the electronic voting.
The motion fails 6-5.
The next item on the agenda is Z25-00012 Enclave at Little Creek. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you. This proposal includes one parcel and a portion of another totaling 46.78 acres and located at 5524 and 5515 George King Road. The current zoning of the parcels are residential suburban 20. The applicant proposes to change this designation of one partial parcel, specifically read 232-242, totaling 45.95 acres, to planned development residential 5.006, to allow up to 230 townhouses, multiplexes, and/or apartments. The applicant is seeking an initial zoning of RS20 county jurisdiction to RS20 city jurisdiction for the other parcel, specifically read 140-495. Any use within the RS20 district will be allowed on that parcel. The properties are currently designated mixed residential neighborhood, transit opportunity area, and recreation open space on the place type map. The proposal is generally consistent with the place types. No change to the place type map would be required. The existing zoning is residential suburban 20. The site is surrounded by residential suburban 20 to the north, east, and south. The town of Chapel Hill jurisdiction R-2A zoning is adjacent to the west. This aerial map shows the general location of the property. The majority of the property is currently designated mixed residential neighborhood. The southern portion of the site is designated recreation and open space to acknowledge the adjacent natural heritage area. The proposed zoning was determined consistent with the designated place types. The applicant has included text commitments, including environmental commitments, affordable housing, a DPS contribution, and provision for the Little Creek Greenway. The applicant held neighborhood meetings on April 29th and December 11th, 2025. There are 2 comments from the Durham Rezoning Explorer related to the case, one of which is neutral and one in opposition. The proposal is consistent with the place type map designations of mixed residential neighborhood, transit opportunity area, recreation and open space, and consistent with 21 of 31 applicable policies of the comprehensive plan. Thank you, and staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you. The chair is now opening the public hearing. We have community members in person that have signed up to speak. The applicant, you can have the applicant first. Sorry.
Thanks again for the presentation, and good evening once again. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Neil Ghosh, attorney at the Morningstar Law Group, 700 West Main Street in Durham. Tim Sivers with CUNITY is also with me tonight. They've been engaged by the applicant for the land planning and engineering. So like my last project, I want to start by taking a moment to explain a few oddities about this project. First of all, the current owner of this parcel, which is not my client, not my applicant, also owns a small 0.72 acre parcel on the other side of George King Road. Our annexation application includes that parcel, but that parcel is not part of this project. We are annexing that parcel to further close the donut hole, but that, if you were reading about RS20 zoning, that's what that is. It's not really part of the project, it's just annexation. And then secondly, the larger parcel, it's about 47.88 acres in total, but a portion of it is within Chapel Hill's planning jurisdiction. This is reflected on the map that's in your agenda packet. And if you think of the parcel as kind of a boot, with the heel of that boot being out on George King Road, it's the toe of the boot that is in Chapel Hill's planning jurisdiction. that section of the property also is not part of our application, not part of our project. So just to make it clear on what is and isn't. And now about the project. So what we're talking about here is a maximum of 230 units. We have committed to providing at least 20% of those units as affordable units. And in this case, I'm talking about affordable as that's defined in the UDO. And I don't have to tell you that 20% on a project of this size is an enormous commitment. At 230 total units, that would be 184 market rate units and 46 affordable units, and that's a pretty great project mix. The staff report talks a little bit about the mix of housing, and I wanted to shed some light on that. We have a commitment here to a minimum of 20% of the units being apartments, and that's because we intend to deliver the affordable units as apartments. The remaining units will look like townhomes. Whether they are townhomes will depend on how they are developed. If each unit is developed on its own single tax parcel, that would be considered townhomes. But if multiple units are built on one tax lot, then under the UDO, those are called apartments, even though they look exactly like townhomes. And, you know, having that flexibility here gives my client the ability to build them as either true townhomes, for example, if the units are for sale, or as apartments that look exactly like townhomes if the units are for rent. So there will be a mix of housing, you know, in the way that it looks. It's just kind of, we're not clear on what to call it because it will depend on how it's developed. I also want to touch on the environmental components of the project. First of all, the property has streams that run through it. And whenever there are streams, we always want to be careful to not impact them or otherwise limit impacts to them. That's not really a possibility on this property, and it's for good reason. The Southwest Durham Southeast Chapel Hill Collector Street Plan, which is an adopted transportation plan, shows collector roads going through the property, crossing streams, and impacting environmentally sensitive areas. Now, we believe that the project we intend to build will require only one stream crossing, which is the extension of Lancaster Drive. That's one of the planned collector streets on the adopted plan. It goes, you know, through the property. But the future build out of the collector street plan, perhaps by NCDOT or the city or whoever ends up building that, will require, and in fact is planned, for significantly more impacts to those areas. In fact, as part of this project, we will be dedicating right-of-way in some of those environmentally sensitive areas for that planned future build-out. And I wanted to call that out because the staff report notes that the project is inconsistent with several policies related to the preservation of natural heritage areas. Practically speaking, those areas cannot be protected, and in fact, impacts to those areas are already planned for transportation infrastructure through the city's adopted transportation plans. But that doesn't mean we haven't taken those impacts lightly. You know, as it's noted in the staff report, we have committed to 22% tree coverage when only 7% tree coverage would be required. We also have reduced our impervious to 60%. We've limited allowable impacts to wetlands. You know, so in my opinion, we are doing what we can to limit our environmental impacts while still addressing the city's critical infrastructure and housing needs. Finally, I want to give a hand to our neighbors to the west who formed a small, manageable committee that interfaces with our team regularly to discuss neighborhood concerns and possible solutions. In my opinion, it really has been quite a collaborative effort. We have a few commitments we are adding to the project to address their concerns. These commitments have already been run by staff. The first deals with height. Building height already is limited to 45 feet for the entire project. But to provide a better transition from the existing housing to our west, we want to further limit height to no more than 40 feet within the area that is 70 feet from our western property line. Next, we also are committing to having a 40-foot undisturbed buffer along our western property line. And then finally, I would say, I guess we are, let's say, behind that 40-foot buffer, we are committing to planting 30 evergreen understory trees for every 100 linear feet where new houses are planned in our project. And this is, of course, to provide both a natural buffer through preservation of the existing trees, but those are mature trees, they're quite tall, it can be, and they don't necessarily provide the visual block that you might want from vegetative screening. That's where the evergreen understory trees come in, and they're quite dense. And so that's what those conditions are meant to address. We also have spoken with the neighbors about various other concerns that are not necessarily germane to zoning, and have committed to working with them on solutions to those items as well. We've identified some potential avenues for solutions. So, and they're committed to working with us to make some of those things happen as well. So we're excited about that. In general, I think it's been a very productive interaction that has helped shape the project for a better result. This is an aggressive project in that it delivers market rate housing, affordable housing, tons of infrastructure, which I haven't gone through completely, but tons of infrastructure, critical rights of ways, and it does this all while exceeding tree coverage requirements, minimizing environmental impacts where possible, and addressing several neighborhood concerns. I think these are the types of projects that are important for our city and for the future of our city. You know, mixed income communities spread throughout the city will provide similar opportunities for a variety of people. Our team is available to answer any questions you may have, and we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Did I lose my sign-up sheet? Community members in person wishing to speak on Enclave at Little Creek. Number 1, Paul Casey.
Thank you. My name is Paul Casey. I live at 109 Sheffield Circle in the Oaks. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We're residents of the Oaks neighborhood, and we are here to highlight why we believe Lancaster is unsafe to serve as a through street for heavy traffic. Our concerns focus on 2 primary areas where the existing infrastructure cannot support increased volume. First, Lancaster Drive is a residential street defined by private driveways, curb cuts, and high pedestrian activity. Because we do not have individual mailboxes at our homes, residents, including many elderly neighbors, must cross the street daily to access shared mailbox stations. This is a walking neighborhood where families, children, and pet owners are constantly active. Combined with the fact that the street lighting is extremely limited, introducing through traffic into this environment creates an immediate and preventable safety hazard. Second, Lancaster Drive functions as the central traffic hub for the Chapel Hill Country Club. The road divides the golf course and serves about 150-space parking lot, supporting a membership of approximately 800 people. This generates a constant flow of vehicles along with multiple golf cart and pedestrian crossings that are often obscured to drivers unfamiliar with this area. During the summer and throughout club events, families legally park on both sides of the street to access the entire club facility, including the swimming pool, the tennis courts, the golf course, and the restaurant. This significantly narrows the roadway and creates dangerous blind spots. Adding high-volume through traffic to a street where children are biking and visibility is already restricted is an unacceptable risk to public safety. In light of these concerns, we have several questions for the committee. With the development of Lee Valley, Lee Village, and the Enclave, has a traffic study been performed to analyze the cumulative daily traffic numbers for all related roads upon completion? Additionally, will roundabouts, traffic calming measures, and sidewalks be required with the submission of final site plans? Finally, what specific upgrades are being made to George King Road, as it's the logical major artery for these new residents? We would also like to know about right-in, right-out interchange could be added to George King Highway to Highway 54. While we understand our community is evolving and new housing is necessary. Sorry?
2 minutes.
Sorry, I'm done. I'm almost done. Growth should not be accommodated by shifting traffic burdens into existing neighborhoods in ways that compromise safety. We would ask you to reject this.
Thank you. Charles Modello. Okay, whatever order you're going to go in. Number 1, come up to the mic, the podium, and state your name and address, please.
Yes. Hello, Commissioners. Good evening to you. My name is Melissa Kane. I live at 405 Lancaster Drive in Durham County. And I am here tonight to speak to you about the Enclave project. And I appreciate Neil mentioning that we have been working cooperatively. We have. I'm part of that group. But I also want to say that it's a very large project. It has tremendous impacts on our neighborhood, as you have just heard. And we need to have a position on this that is one of our homeowners association. And we will not have that position for 2 weeks because our annual meeting, membership meeting will happen on January 28th. Neil is aware of this as well. So one thing you might consider is deferring your decision this evening so that we have an opportunity to address these issues in depth, letting every voice in our neighborhood be heard. Very important for our future. We know our future depends on the annexation and the rezoning and decisions you make tonight and will be made forward with the council. We depend on having our neighborhood fit into the vast amount of development in Southwest Durham, which includes Lee Village Center. I would like to introduce members from my neighborhood tonight. I would like to ask them to stand. And as residents of our community, they will speak to you. I will not speak to you this evening as president of our homeowners association because I am not authorized to do so. I have opinions that are mine about the neighborhood. I have tried to imagine myself living in the neighborhood enclave, and I have serious, I just can't imagine it. It's car dependent, it's not walkable, there is no transit, it fronts a gravel road. It is 60% impervious surface with runoff to Jordan Lake watershed, and it is a satellite development contiguous upon the annexation of Lee Village Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Good evening. My name is Linda Shiflett, 100 Tweed Place, and I'm here to speak about the Enclave proposal and its alignment with Durham's adopted goals and objectives. When looking at the Enclave project using Durham's own policies, one conclusion stands out. The project meaningfully aligns with only one of the city's 4 key goals, and that is sense of place. The project does add housing, including affordable units, and it introduces some housing diversity. But even here, alignment is incomplete. All townhomes are built to rent, which eliminates home ownership and equity building opportunities that Durham has identified as a priority. Affordable housing is also separated from townhomes rather than fully integrated. Where the project falls most clearly out of alignment is with Durham's other 3 goals. Housing and neighborhoods. This is not a walkable or complete neighborhood and does not meet the 15-minute neighborhood standard. It is outside the city limits, accessed by gravel roads with no sidewalks or lighting. Families would have to walk over a mile to reach a school, a pharmacy, or basic services. Transportation. Residents will be entirely car dependent, generating potentially 1,800 vehicle trips per day on gravel roads and through nearby senior communities that lack sidewalks. And the environment. The parcel sits upstream from protected land in the Lake Jordan watershed. It has mature trees and multiple streams. Clear-cutting that land creates 60% impervious surface, increases runoff into a protected watershed. These outcomes run counter to stated commitments to environmental protection, climate resilience, and sustainable growth. These are all long-term consequences that don't go away once construction is finished. Rezoning and annexation should clearly advance the public interest in line with the city's adopted plans. This proposal creates long-term costs and risk for the broader community. I respectfully ask you to weigh this proposal against the standards the city has already set for itself and vote no on this proposal. Thank you so very much for your service.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, thank you. My name's Craig Palms. My wife, Abby, and I live at 306 Lancaster Drive. Now, I'm not anti-development, but I am pro-safety. I support the need for increased housing stock in our community, but the interests of all stakeholders must be thoroughly considered prior to making a recommendation. The North Carolina Department of Transportation recently launched a Vision Zero initiative that addresses 3 founding principles. All road users deserve safe streets, no loss of life on our roads is acceptable, injury or death is not an inevitable price to pay for mobility. We all have a fundamental right to move safely through our neighborhood. Durham maintains it will work with its partners to push for policies, funding, and street designs that put people first. The Enclave proposal incorporates connection with 3 existing roads, Lancaster, Hebrides, and Dundalk Drive. If approved, the project will connect multiple existing residential neighborhoods to highly dense communities, generating significant new traffic on these roadways, yet there is no mandate or plan to protect the residents. These connector roads are more than just a thoroughfare for vehicles. As mentioned before, they're a path for pedestrians. It was probably not anticipated years ago that Lancaster would connect to such a dense development, creating such untenable traffic volume. We understand the developer of the Enclave has no mandate to upgrade infrastructure on the existing connector roadways to assure the safety of our neighborhoods. Yet, they are obligated to incorporate the latest safety measures and standards for the extensions of the existing roads. Implementing the Vision Zero principles on connector roads means building more sidewalks to fill existing gaps and connect communities, installing protected bike lanes beyond simple paint strips and moving to physical barriers to ensure cyclist safety, implementing traffic calming measures to manage speeds, which data shows is a critical factor in the severity of crashes, and finally, investing in pedestrian and bicycle safety on connector roads. We urge you not to approve the proposed Enclave development without a plan in place assuring all citizens who traverse the new and existing roadways will be equally and adequately protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Ross, and I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of Helmsdale Drive, where I have lived for 26 years at 103 Helmsdale. Helmsdale is a short, quarter-mile residential street ending in a cul-de-sac that has served 30 single-family homes since 1988. It has no sidewalks and was never designed to function as a collector or through street. There is one stop sign where residents exit left onto Lancaster Drive. To the right on Lancaster is a cluster mailbox serving those 16 homes with frequent car and pedestrian traffic crossing Helmsdale. Most Helmsdale residents are senior citizens. Grandchildren visit, residents walk dogs, and everyone must step into the street to collect mail from one of 2 cluster curbside mailboxes. The Little Creek Trail easement also brings pedestrians from outside the neighborhood. Helmsdale already functions as a shared pedestrian vehicle space and cannot safely handle more traffic. The proposed extension of 2 closely spaced street stubs, only 4 homes apart, would add traffic to a street that is already narrow and frequently occupied by curbside service and caregiving vehicles. This would fundamentally change the street and increase safety risk, especially for seniors and pedestrians. Homes on the east side of Helmsdale directly abut the proposed Enclave development. We ask for a height limit of no more than 40 feet and a minimum 50-foot planted buffer along the western boundary of the planned multifamily townhomes. In closing, we ask the Commission to recognize that Helmsdale Drive is not designed to absorb additional traffic, and that any adjacent development must include strong buffers, clear height limits, and meaningful protections for this long-established neighborhood. Thank you for your attention, and we ask that you deny this application.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Michael Wilder. I live at 405 Lancaster Drive in Chapel Hill. Durham County. I've lived there for 14 years. Prior to that, I lived in North Orange County, Chapel Hill for 26 years. I'm going to take my time tonight to talk about traffic. That's a common denominator in Durham County, certainly in Orange and Chapel Hill. We've heard a lot about traffic problems throughout the cities. We talk about the collector street plan. This collector street plan was designed in 2007. Most of the roads, infrastructure with that plan have never been implemented. The cities of Durham and Chapel Hill have potentially relied on developers to pave the roads, widen the roads, create the sidewalk structure. That hasn't happened. State funding is non-existent for collector street plans. So basically, the terminology I've read about online is it's a zombie plan. The exists on paper, it's occasionally mentioned, but nobody ever builds roads. Now, one of the biggest keys to all of this in Chapel Hill and the enclave development, and we certainly have appreciated the communication we've had with the legal team and the developers, and we've come away with a lot of cooperative aspects. But George King Road is a serious problem. It runs about runs about 7,700 feet north to south. It starts in Durham County. It's paved. There's a sidewalk. There are gutters. It goes south about 1,700 feet to the beginning of the enclave development. It's gravel. It's 24 to 26 feet wide. The state of North Carolina maintains a maintenance easement, not a widening easement. George King Road north of enclave cannot be widened, and the developer doesn't intend to do anything to that road. South of enclave, which is approximately 1,700 feet along George King Road, is currently gravel, and it can potentially be widened, but the lower part of that is the Army Corps property, which cannot be widened or sidewalks cannot be provided.
Thank you. You have 2
Thank
minutes. Next.
My name is Patrice Capon. I live at 305 Lancaster Drive in Durham County. There's several pileated woodpeckers that live in the enclave behind there, and they mate for life, they are non-migratory, and they are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. That means it is illegal to harm, capture, or kill them or disturb their nests without a permit. They are a keystone species because they create cavities in mature forests with large, dead, or decaying trees. These cavities in large diameter timber provide homes for other wildlife, making their habitat crucial for forest ecosystems. I've already seen a 50% decline in the number of bird species that visit my bird feeders in the last 6 months due to the number of the old trees being cut down. Please protect this Jordan Creek watershed area. The southern portion of the site adjacent to the Army Corps land is designated as natural heritage land. It's named Little Creek Bottomlands and Slopes. The conservation value was C4 and the rarity value was R5. It scored within both categories of conservation and rarity. In 2024, North Carolina lost 130,900 acres of natural forest. Urban tree canopy lost annually is around 4,500 acres. The enclave parcel is heavily forested with mature specimen trees between 280 and 309, which will be clear cut. Please help protect the beauty of Durham's tree canopy and wildlife. Deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we can display this, or you guys are already seeing it. Oh, perfect. So I'm also here as a resident.
Please state your name and address.
Sorry, Charles Mondello, and thank you to the commission for having us tonight. And I'm on Helmsdale Drive. I'm also an American Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing Fellow. So I wanted to make the committee at least aware of some of the changes that are happening in remote sensing. And you'll see these links for you for later use for not only this enclave proposal, but for other things. Proximity to floodplain is a key. Drainage alteration paths are a key. lack of overt regulatory safeguards in areas outside of already defined high-risk zones make it easier for developers to move in and make changes. So I've given you a link, and it's actually quite interesting. The USGS, when I ask you to take a look, they actually funded NC State to evaluate risks in development that are approaching wetlands and approaching flood zones. And I'll show you some actual measurements I've made to highlight that. So again, I think it's interesting for you to have this for this opportunity and for others you want to consider. I've also given you links to your own maps that show the areas of concern. So hopefully this will help you in making a decision. So unfortunately, we all lived through Helene. Here you see some of the flooding areas on the right-hand side. You see Georgia Road. And the difference in the black hashed and the blue, we're already seeing in 2018 to 2019 a growth of flood risk. And this is without a vast amount of additional impermeable being added, which is what we're talking about. So I've also done some measurements for you. Again, the NC State study highlights a concern of 820 feet. Well, the parcels are already 484 and 329 feet. Any addition of impermeable surface puts all of those at risk. So I would recommend, obviously, not going forward. Thank you for your time, and I thank you for all the work you're doing.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Name and address.
I'm Steve Cohn, 1406 Pennsylvania Avenue, and Chair of the Open Space Committee of the Durham Open Space and Trails Commission. As the citizen group that advises Durham's governments on all matters connected to open space, we have sent you our open space report card on the enclave at Little Creek with grades of 1D and 3Fs. It's commendable that the developer is proffering 22% tree save when only 7% is required. Ordinarily, DOST would be congratulating the developer for that proffer. But in this case, there's a natural heritage area involved, and the developer is choosing to ignore it. That's not okay. The NC Natural Heritage Program is charged with determining through field observations which parts of the state are important to conserve as open space for maintaining biodiversity. The City of Durham needs to trust and respect those designations by insisting that these areas remain undisturbed as much as possible and by putting them under permanent protection, as is clearly stated by the Durham Comprehensive Plan. With no commitment to use its tree save area for protecting the natural heritage area and creating an adequate buffer from the conservation game lands to the south, the developers can do whatever they want in this natural heritage area. That is not acceptable. As the planning staff's consistency review shows, this rezoning case fails to meet Policy 79 on protecting sensitive areas, Policy 81 on locating open space so it protects the most environmentally sensitive portions of the property, and Policy 83 on leaving such areas undisturbed. It also fails to meet Policy 80 on protecting the integrity of nearby parklands and nature preserves, unless and until the developers can commit to fully protecting the valuable Little Creek bottomlands and slopes natural heritage area as undisturbed open space and a natural buffer. We strongly recommend that the enclave at Little Creek should not be rezoned.
Thank you. I have one name left on the list, Phil Post.
Good evening. My name's Phil Post. I live at 104 St. Andrews Place, Durham County. Those of us who've lived within about a quarter mile of the proposed development for over 30 years, you know that it's suboptimal if trees are to be cleared and developments to occur and streets are being extended. However, I must say that the developers worked very closely with a small group of us on really important issues. Number one issue was that we asked for an undisturbed buffer. And as you've heard, they've guaranteed us a 40-foot undisturbed buffer. Beyond that, we asked for evergreen plantings to enhance the understory of those mature trees, and they've offered the evergreen plantings. The third ask was for two-story buildings to be immediately adjacent on the common property line. So folks in my neighborhood, whom I'm representing, Oaks 4, we've gone out, we've measured the 40 feet, we've identified where the evergreen plantings are to be, and we've looked at where the two-story buildings will be. And as again, I've said, it's suboptimal, but I have to thank the developer for listening to us and also be willing to cooperate on several other issues having to do with the extension of Lancaster and where the affordable units will be and the possible closure of some adjacent streets. So overall, although we're not delighted, we very much appreciate the work that the developer has done. And so I stand before you asking you to approve the rezoning and the annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on the Zoom wishing to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function. Seeing nobody. Oh, Brian Sugg.
Thank you. My name is Brian Sugg. I live at 304 Lancaster Drive. I also want to echo what you just heard from Phil Post in terms of the appreciation for the developer listening to our concerns and helping address a few of those as it relates to buffer, building heights, and the evergreen plantings. I want to try to quantify some of the traffic congestion and pedestrian concerns that you've heard from others. As noted in the agenda packet, within a half mile of this proposal, there are currently 5 other active projects. 3 of those are currently in site plan, and 2 of them, including Lee Village Center, are in rezoning and annexation. Those 5 projects currently total over 3,300 units. And with this proposal, that will add up to over 3,500 units within a half mile radius. And George King Road is right in the heart of that area. And speaking as a citizen who drives to this area every day, seeing the rezoning signs, seeing the ongoing construction, there seems to be just a lack of orchestration across these projects, and there's just a lot happening right now. And I say that because it's been very difficult for not only our residents in Oaks Villas, but other residents in other communities just to understand what is the total impact from all of this, I guess, rezoning and construction that is happening right now. And what I would say is, as it relates to traffic on George King Road is not being paved to the north. And from the northern property line to Creekside Elementary, it would be a half mile of gravel. And so without that being paved, a lot of the concerns that you're hearing from residents is that traffic that needs to move to the north and to the west will actually come up through Lancaster Drive as part of that collector street plan. And that's where George King, if it's paved from north to south, would make such a huge difference, not only in the flow of traffic, but the traffic that would actually coming through some of these neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, that don't have a means to keep pedestrians off the streets. So I just wanted to call that to the commission's attention. And I also wanted to thank Andy Lester, who has offered a lot of clarity to our questions throughout this process too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the Zoom wishing to speak? Please use the raise your hand function. Nope, nobody. Okay, would the applicant care to respond?
Yeah, so thanks, and this is Neil Ghosh for the applicant once again. A couple things, a lot of things were said, and I recognize I don't have time to address all of them, and I imagine some of you all will have similar questions or concerns that were raised by some of the speakers, and so we'll be happy to answer them in that format as well. I did want to touch on the environmental impacts in the natural heritage area. I'm glad the representative from DOS was here and mentioned that the Natural Heritage Program is charged with doing field observations. And I just want to make one note. No one from that program, from that organization, has visited this property to do a field observation of any kind. So how it was determined, I don't know. But to suggest that there was some boots-on-the-ground determination. I just want to be clear, that did not happen. That was not the case here. Now, I also just want to point out the hypocrisy in some of the things that have been said. The Natural Heritage Program, if you don't know what it is a non-regulatory program. Why it exists, I really couldn't tell you, but it is non-regulatory, and it does provide valuable information about existing forest lands, things like that. However, no one has visited this site to determine anything with any specificity, number one. Number two, yes, there are several policies in the comp plan that mention the Natural Heritage Program and otherwise encourage the preservation of environmentally sensitive areas. However, the city's own adopted transportation plans put roads directly through those areas. And I want to be clear, the roads could have gone somewhere else. You know, I recognize there are some features, streams you have to cross in order to get from one section to another. I get that. But there's a road that is planned on this property that runs directly within the Natural Heritage Corridor. It's not like it does anything to minimize that impact as part of the collector street plan. Luckily, we've designed the project in a way that doesn't need that, so we will be dedicating the right-of-way for it, but we're trying to avoid as many impacts as we can. The simple fact of the matter is that there are competing policies and plans in Durham's planning world that the applicant has had to contend with here. I know my time is up, and I look forward to answering other questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, we're closing the public hearing and opening it for commissioner discussion. Any commissioner questions, comments? Commissioner Montez?
Yeah, thanks. Quick question for the applicant. Obviously, there's a lot of traffic concerns and everything, and this project in particular has been out there for a while. There's been a lot of attempts at trying to rezone this. It's my personal opinion that this is going to happen inevitably. There's no stopping it. It's needed to supply the Durham's housing supply. And my question to the applicant really is, and it states it on the staff report, but I just want to confirm, starting from NC 54 Road into that gravel drive, the text commitment is to pave that road from there all the way up to the northern property line of the subject property to NCDOT standards. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, and I saw that too. That is the commitment with one caveat. There is another project, which I should know because our firm represents it, Lee Village or Lee Valley, I can't remember which is which, that is across the street. And that project is going to implement another aspect of the transportation plan, which is what's the word I'm looking for? Realignment of George King Road. So depending on when each of these projects becomes or starts to develop, if we develop before that project, for example, then yes, that's the commitment.
Right.
If we develop after the project, as I understand it, what that means is instead of going through Army Corps land, we will go all the way down our site, and then essentially the road gets realigned through Lee Village. George King Road would get realigned through Lee Village, so we would not be actually impacting or paving or whatever other improvements to the gravel section of the road that currently exists on Army Corps land.
Yeah, well, from my eyes, I didn't measure how far it is from the southern property line all the way down to that road, but it seems like that's a tremendous amount of off-site road improvements that are really valuable to George King Road. Lancaster Drive is inevitably going to go through there. And then one other question I had is, in the staff report, it does say that Go Transit was, requesting for a bus stop as close to NC Highway as possible, or that intersection. I understand perhaps through easements may be hard to accomplish, but could we consider perhaps even putting an easement set aside for the transit for a future development, or It seems like in the bottom right-hand corner of the development, there's pretty undevelopable little corner there that could easily be, you know, a small 20 by 20 or bus transit easement could be placed there for future connection. If that is the request of.
All right, I'm going to be honest. You've caught me off guard here because I don't recall the transit authority providing that comment to us. I think there was a comment from BPAC suggesting that we work with Go Triangle on transit stop. And so,
Yeah, Go Triangle. They requested to build a bus stop near an intersection of Highway 54, and it wasn't done. So I'm just curious. I mean, I understand perhaps because it's environmentally sensitive areas that it's hard to commit to something like that. But I mean, I could see an easement easily being placed there for future connection.
I think that's something we can look into, but I'm just being honest with you. I don't recall us talking about that specifically with Go Triangle, so that might be on me.
Yeah, I read it through the staff report. I should have reached out earlier if that was a question or if maybe that was a mistake on the staff report. But anyways, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Nope. May I have a motion to move case Z 25-00012 Enclave at Little Creek forward with a favorable recommendation?
Chair Shigaris, regarding case Z 25-00015, oh, sorry, 00012, I'm on the next one already. Enclave at Little Creek. I move that we forward this case to City Council with a favorable recommendation for approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to move this case forward with a favorable recommendation. May we have the electronic voting, please?
The motion fails 8-3.
We will take a 15-minute break to allow closed captioning to catch up. Be back at 7:43. Thank you.
She's on vacation. Oh, okay. They found cheap flights up to Japan. And she and her husband, yeah, like $500 too. Where? I don't know. You know, because she's young, right? She's young, so she's like, oh yeah, I'll fly at like 6 a.m. with a 9-hour layover in East Bumble and all that. But
For 500
My brother and his family get up at 2 in the morning to catch flights on the cheap. I go in the early hours. I don't care how much it costs. It's like, I just, I'm a morning person. I'm not getting up before sunrise to catch a plane.
yeah, but they got some deal. They flew comes, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the following month.
Which
She's
way?
coming back the 19th.
Which way around did they go? Or
I don't know, I assume it went west. Yeah, they probably flew out to California.
because the Earth turns that way.
But it might have been one of those, you know,
So that's a shame.
I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, it was like Arkansas to Chicago, Chicago to Seattle, Seattle. Probably one of those types of things, but when you're young, you can do that.
In Japan, it's beautiful. All my friends go to the British Isles, and I'm like, it's just Scotland, Ireland. They don't look so gray and
Oh, Ireland's gorgeous.
yeah.
I was there a couple of years ago. It's beautiful. It's absolutely so beautiful. It's not. I mean, it rains a lot.
Yeah.
But it's, so I lived in Luxembourg. And I dealt with the same kind of thing. It's right at it's right where the moisture comes across from the North Sea, goes over the low country, mountains, goes up and dumps.
Yeah.
So it always, it rained like 5 out of 7 days a week in Luxembourg. There's also always some sun. Yeah. But it was like one of those, like, it would miss. Or like get a little shower. But there were definitely times to see the sun. Our experience.
By the way, I used to be a chaplain planner as a law enforcement officer, and so I wasn't expecting that crowd. That's a little bit of nostalgia. It feels like a little place at home.
In Chapel Hill says we don't want them.
That's a rough stretch. Mostly because of all the the streams and the danger, isn't it? Danger of Jordan Lake.
Not that far north, but it doesn't, that finger crosses.
Yeah, yeah. Were they on a 50? Were they just were they capped out on that?
You did that? There's somebody at the different Chris.
I got like 3 missed calls. I didn't see them all. I got 3 missed calls from Luna, and I was just like, I called them back, but I just left a message. So I figured I got it. They're probably like, yeah, here's your.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the other Chris showed up and was like, but once they give it to you, it's not like you can take it back and give it to them. That's, you're done.
And you know, sometimes like when you order just like a drink, like it takes like this long.
Right.
Sometimes, like the
You didn't think about it.
items were the exact things I ordered. It's a pork empanada and chicken empanada. Like that was the first two. Those the exact same empanadas. And I was just, I felt so awful. I saw the bills. I was like, definitely was ordering. It was like 30 items. Like good
stuff.
Like one whole chicken plate, like 4 arepas, like with like brisket on top, and like stuff with like grits. I was just like, I just fed everyone who was nearby. Anyone who wants to come up, my house is longer to eat.
Oh, it was an honest mistake, obviously.
Yeah, I tried calling them back. I was going to offer to pay, but I was just going to apologize.
We're missing Anitra. Everybody but Anitra is here. Oh, she left. Okay. Okay. Okay, so she'll be, I'll just acknowledge that she, you have to leave at 8, yes. Well,
All right, we are going to call the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is Z25-0015, 1612 Carpenter Fletcher 2. May we have the staff report, please?
thank you, Chair Shigaris, Vice Chair Cameron, and the rest of the remaining other members of the Planning Commission, Aaron Kane with the Planning Department. Just to begin, Commissioner Bailey has left but did not ask for an absence. Therefore, she will be a yes vote on all items going forward per the rules of procedure. This request is Z25-00015, 1612 Carpenter Fletcher Road 2. The request is for the rezoning of an existing commercial building of 0.09 acres from commercial general with a textual development plan and a small sliver of office and institutional to commercial general with a textual development plan. Currently, the textual development plan limits the permitted uses on the site to a health club or studio only. Although the main zoning district won't change, the new proposed development plan will expand the list of permitted uses. The existing zoning is predominantly commercial general. Although it is difficult to see, there is a small bit of office and institutional on the southern portion of the site. This rezoning will align the commercial general zoning with the parcel line. The aerial map shows the parcel with the existing development. It is used as a yoga studio and gym as prescribed in the existing textual development plan. The property is currently designated neighborhood services on the place type map. The proposed rezoning is determined to be consistent with that designation. Again, the existing development plan limits uses on the site to a health club or studio. The proposed development plan permits the uses as shown here. 2 meetings were held in accordance with the neighborhood meeting guidelines. 6 community members attended the first and no one attended the second. There have been no comments on the Durham Rezoning Explorer for this case. The proposal is consistent with 7 of 13 applicable comprehensive plan policies and is generally consistent with the place type designation of neighborhood services. Thank you. Staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chair is now opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant, please?
Good evening. I'm Mike Klein with MRK Planning Consulting. I was going to give a little bit, 7204 Stonecliff Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. I was going to give a bit of an overview of the site, but Aaron just did that. So the site was last rezoned in 2019 from office institutional to commercial general, and with a textual development plan limiting the uses on that site to the single retail use, further limited to health and fitness. The current owner and tenant, Arikian Hot Yoga, are seeking to sell and vacate the site. So we're trying to simply expand the range of uses such that the site can be appropriately marketed to new owners and tenants. Going over the staff report today, I see mention frequently of daycare use, and we have left daycare use out of our list of uses. We were trying to focus on potentially less intensive uses, and the impression was that daycare might be too intense for the site, but it seems like there is some interest in having that included. We'd be perfectly happy to include that into the list of uses as well as any other use that the Planning Commission thinks is valuable. particularly as there's a potential development of 300-plus residential units coming basically next door to the south. If the commission has any questions, happy to answer them. And again, we're amenable to expanding the range of uses if the commission thinks that's necessary.
Thank you. Do any community members in person wishing to speak on this? Did anybody sign up on the sheet? No. Anybody on the Zoom use the raise your hand function? All right, seeing nobody wishing to speak, the chair is closing the public hearing and open for commissioner discussion. Commissioner Chakowski.
Thank you, Chair. I think more of a comment than anything. I certainly would feel comfortable with one of the uses being expanded for daycare. And so I guess my question for staff is, well, is that a thing that we can recommend now, or how does that work?
It's certainly something you can recommend. It's also something the applicant can agree to proffer at this time. And if you'll agree to formally proffer to also include care, we would call it care centers, then we can simply amend the development plan before it goes before the city council.
I didn't hear that clearly. Was it daycare?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's a different
we use the term care centers so that it's a little more encompassing, but if you'll agree to proffer to that, then we can simply address that at...
We're amenable to that. We're
okay,
fine.
great,
Yep.
fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments on this item? May I have a motion to move case Z25-00015 Carpenter Fletcher 2 with the additional proffer of care centers forward with a favorable recommendation?
Chair, regarding case, I can't see, Z25-00015 1612 Carpenter Fletcher 2, I move that we forward this case forward to the City Council with a favorable recommendation for approval with the additional proffer.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to move this case forward with the favorable recommendation. May we have the electronic voting, please? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Z25-00023 Denfield Lodgement. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Shigaris. As you said, this is case Z25-00023 Denfield Lodgement. The request is for a 6.9 acre parcel of land located at 4424 Denfield Street to rezone from residential suburban 10 and residential suburban 20 to residential suburban multifamily with a textual development plan to allow for up to 70 dwelling units. There we go. As you can see on the map, the existing zoning is residential suburban 10 and residential suburban 20. It is surrounded by the same, except for industrial light to the north of the site. The aerial map shows the general location of the project, located just off North Roxborough Street. The property is currently designated established residential on the place type map. The proposed residential suburban multifamily zoning is determined consistent with the designated place type. The applicant has proffered a number of conditions, including 5% of the units to be affordable by UDO standards, 5% of the units to be accessible with level entry and first floor bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. All units to include a level 2 or higher EV charging station, Energy Star standards, native plantings, and a $2,000 donation to Durham Public Schools. 2 neighborhood meetings were held in accordance with neighborhood meeting guidelines. 9 community members attended the first meeting, and no one attended the second meeting. There's currently 1 comment against this proposal on the Durham Rezoning Explorer. The proposal is consistent with 19 of 21 comprehensive plan policies and is generally consistent with the place type designation of established residential. Thank you. Staff and the applicants are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. The chair is now opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant, please?
Thank you, Mr. Kane, for the presentation, and good evening once again. This is Neil Ghosh with the Morningstar Law Group, 700 West Main Street in Durham. My client on this project is the property owner. They are not a corporate developer or seasoned builder. They bought this property as an investment. It has a home on it, and when they bought it, there was a renter in that home. And they first approached me about trying to build more homes on the property around the existing home. The property is roughly 7 acres in size, and it's already within the city limits. So the zoning here is essentially to increase the density. For some reason, there are 2 zoning districts on the property. I could not figure out why that's the case. It seems quite odd in this scenario. But we're proposing to rezone the whole thing to RSM to allow for the development of up to 70 units. Originally, when we filed this project, they intended to keep the existing home, and in fact, we had a commitment that spoke to that. Sometime during our review cycle, the renter moved out of the home, and my clients got a chance to look further into that home. And to preserve it would require expensive repairs and also, importantly, asbestos remediation. So we removed that commitment. They're still considering whether they can save the building, but it remains to be seen, just because there's some additional complications they were not initially aware of. Other than that, I think it's a pretty straightforward residential rezoning case on a property that's already within the city limits. It's got good commitments. 5% of the homes would be affordable housing dwelling units. 5% of the homes would be accessible, meaning that they would have ground level entry and ground floor living. And the new homes will have EV chargers, and they will be Energy Star certified. We use native plant species on this, and they do plan to build a 10-foot concrete shared path along their frontage. So, this project is going to add some much-needed housing stock to the city, while at the same time, it's I guess, taking advantage of existing city infrastructure in there. This is not an annexation. I know you all see a lot of cases that are associated with an annexation. This is not one of them. So happy to answer any questions you have about the project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Community members, Benjamin Chapman.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Chapman. I live at 301 Monk Road. I have not many oppositions. My main concern is that the primary southward egress from that area where it connects Denfield to Duke and then goes on to Hebron is a very congested intersection with the fast food joints on Hebron. It ends up being a very difficult intersection to navigate. Additionally, the protected left-hand turn from Denfield onto Duke Street doesn't ever seem to actually be on. It's always just a blinking yellow, which good luck getting that to work. On the north end with Monk Road, the speed bumps on that road are already seeing some significant signs of degradation. With the increase of construction traffic, I suspect that those speed bumps will see continued degradation. Additionally, the stoplight at Monk and Roxborough has not been activated. I think that would be definitely a benefit to the traffic in that area, just to make sure that that stays mitigated. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on the Zoom wishing to speak on this agenda? You raise your hand. Function? Nope. Nobody? Okay. The public hearing is now closed. We have any commissioner comments or discussion on this item? None? All right. May I have a motion to move case Z25-00023 Denfield Lodgement forward with a favorable recommendation?
Chair, regarding case Z25-00023 Denfield Lodgement, I move that we forward this case to City Council with a favorable recommendation for approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Cameron and seconded by Commissioner Hunter to move this case forward with a favorable recommendation. May we have the electronic voting, please?
That mic's not working for some reason. The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6 on the agenda, public hearing, comprehensive plan amendments, A25-02, evaluation and assessment report, year-PTM, and policy amendments. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Shigaris. This will be a relatively quick staff report, as this is the third time you are seeing this item. But I did want to highlight for you some of the changes that have been made in conversation with DOST and other community members with concerns about some of the policy language. So first off, just a reminder of what the EAR is. It is required by the Comprehensive Plan and the Unified Development Ordinance to do an assessment every 2 years of the Comprehensive Plan. One of the things we do is look at the policy language and suggest some changes to that language and how we apply them based on what we've learned over the last 2 years. Since these are the first 2 years of the comp plan, we had several lessons learned that we looked to accommodate through these planned changes to the policy language. Next slide. So there are four policies to bring to your attention that are different from the last time you saw this. Policy 50, we got some information from our City Parks and Recreation Department about some new national standards for distances that residents should be from parks, which differ from what the current language is. So we are simply incorporating the recommendations of our Parks and Recreation Department into those distances. So you'll see those in Policy 50. Policy 79, we updated the policy language, and really you'll see the difference between the last time and this time is we're going more back to the original language. We just made a couple of small edits to the policy, but we had some concerns about drinking, removing terms like drinking water sources and so forth. So based on all that feedback, we're really going back to Policy 79 more to what its original language. Policy 81, we had recommended no longer have the D designation and be part of our comprehensive plan review. We got a lot of feedback on that and concerns about that. We had felt that we had put a lot of that language into 79, but we've taken that language out of 79, put it back into 81, and now we're recommending that 81 still be a D policy. And then there's just a minor clarification in the commentary on Policy 198, which is the new policy regarding rural and agricultural reserve. So if you go to the next one, you can see here, just so that you have it in your presentation, the new language for Policy 50. These are the new national guidelines that the Parks and Recreation Department is adopting regarding distances, and they are based on urban, rural, and suburban locations. So before we had just a blanket 10-minute walking distance to everywhere. That's simply infeasible in some of our more suburban and rural areas. And they do, the new distances also realize that a lot of people, especially in suburban and rural areas, are going to drive to parks and recreation facilities. So it accounts for that as well. As you can see in Policy 79, now we're really not changing much. We're simply add corridors and changing hillsides to steep slopes. Other than that, it's grammatical stuff. No other changes in Policy 79 now. So this is the new chart. This is in your cover memo for this item regarding the policy changes that we're making, the commentary page changes that we're proposing, and the counts for all of those. So staff requests that the Planning Commission provide a recommendation on the proposed policy changes that are before you and forward them to the City Council and Board of County Commissioners for consideration. A reminder, and I believe I mentioned this last time, is that we are required by the UDO to forward this with or without your recommendation because it's now been 90 days since you first heard it. So we'd love to go forward with a recommendation. And with that, I open it to discussion and public hearing comments.
Thank you. The chair is now opening the public hearing. We'd call the applicant, but city's the applicant, so they've already spoken. He's already gone. So community members in person. Number one, Mimi Kessler.
Hi, my name's Mimi Kessler, and my address is on record. There's a lot in this. I actually sent you all a marked up copy of it saying what I agreed with and what I didn't. But of all of the policies, there were 15 that struck me as important. Several of them are hard to do, like sidewalk gaps and small commercial near residential. That's 55 and 82. Wildlife, 83. Trees and affordable housing is 96. I think that when we decrease the number of trees where we're going to increase affordable housing, I think we're perpetuating environmental racism. And let's see, we want there to be small commercial and childcare and schools all near neighborhoods, but we're not planning so that there is actually space for those things. I'm concerned because of the experience of the people out in Southeast Durham that they have trouble getting help for emergencies. And I'm worried about that one. I always worry about upgrading the sewer and the water. I used to get up here and ask how many toilets each of the proposals were it's going to make. Respecting neighborhoods, 169 and 170. And the number of bedrooms, 176. Almost all of the housing that's being built is 1 or 2 bedrooms. This is not good for larger families. We need larger units. 189 is, it's about Duke, and we don't want them to go UC all over the city and our little parcels of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Stainback.
Good evening. My name is Donna Stainback. My address is on record. Preserve Rural Durham has provided input to these comprehensive plan policies since 2022. We have been tracking comprehensive plan consistency per policy and per development and interpreting these for now 3 years. And we have several issues. I emailed some. Unfortunately, I got it later to y'all today. But we have provided and coordinated with over 6 Durham organizations to provide feedback to this year document. And And what we started off with was 69 that we looked at. We've whittled that down to 37 that we still have some comments that are priorities 1, 2, or 3 for us. And then about 15 that are priority 1. And that, you know, I think before, even though it may be adopted, we still need to have a together conversation on that because they impact the environment, the wildlife, the green structures, growth management, housing, the rural nature of the community, the UGB, the rural zoning. And I got a couple that, you know, we can, I normally get somebody to work this. I am, okay. Number 86, I'm going to speak to. Becky's going to speak to 85. This, we think, needs to be on, have a D because it protects the drinking water sources, while 79 only protects them in sensitive areas. So that is, and the Environmental Affairs Board uses this one in their reviews. So the significant ones that I wish I could cover are 120, 121, 165, 167, and 168. There are, of course, all the ones that have priority 1. That was a team agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rebecca Freeman.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Freeman, and my address is on file, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm going to speak on just a few of the policies. Policy number 85, new developments should include tree coverage beyond that required by development. We believe the tree canopy should be preserved throughout the site, not just in one area of just an environmentally sensitive area. And that's what you'll find on some of these developments. They'll use up all the required tree preservation only on the environmental sensitive area, and there's no trees throughout the entire site. The second thing is that there's not a specific gauge for what really the exceed means. Is it 0.5%? Is it 1%? Is it 2%? There's no specific guidance on what the interpretation should be of this policy to make it consistent among the interpretation that the staff would have when they're talking with the applicants. Number 96, implement the strategies to reduce the heat island effect and its impact on the residents. We agree, but what level of over minimum is designated to exceed? It's the same kind of thing so that all the staff will have the same, when they see something that's over what is required, how much more does it get to before it exceeds, so that all the staff could be evaluating that the same. Then policy number 117 and 119, and I'm sorry, I'm not pushing these forward. Do y'all have these on your screen? Okay, sorry. 117 and 119 adequately assess the costs and benefits of the new development before rezoning. And then number 19 is ensure new developments within the urban growth boundary or within the established level of service and for emergency service, et cetera. And I'm kind of combining these because they're the same issue, and that is that some of the things are not being addressed adequately now. It was mentioned earlier, EMS services is woefully or even left off in terms of what the service levels are they're able to do and what. Okay, and then the other thing is for schools and traffic congestion. And one recommendation that I would put out there is that, and maybe this is done already, it's just that these areas where a lot of development is going on, like in Southeast Durham, that there be a semi-annual or annual assessment out in the field to see what's going on, because some of these places are being, these developments are getting these permits, but their permits may be done all in one area, all at one time, or they may be done in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. So what's coming through is not necessarily what's happening out in the field. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Melora McCall.
Melora McCall, my address is on file. The cumulative effects of the proposed changes go beyond technical and grammatical corrections. What's concerning is not just any single edit, but it's the pattern. Across multiple sections, policies that the public, this commission, the EAB, BOCC, and council have relied on for the past 2 years are being downgraded, removed from development significance, or reframed as automatically met by existing UDO standards. The shift matters in practice to more than just staff. At a recent JCCPC meeting, council members emphasized the expectation that the new UDO will codify the comp plan, that by right development should reflect the community vision embedded in the plan. If policy language is being narrowed, deprioritized, or reinterpreted before the UDO is finalized, and without equivalent public engagement, that codification won't translate. Several of the proposed edits replaced policy-based evaluations with statements like met by complying with the UDO, and that effectively converts policies into code minimum entitlements. It reduces discretion and undermines the very reason these policies were created, because the UDO was known to be insufficient in key areas like equity, environmental protection, affordability, and infrastructure. The removal of de-designation on policies that reflect high community priorities, climate resilience, environmental land protection, and annexation impacts suggests these policies as ineffective, unused, or redundant without supporting data. Narrowing habitat protections, limiting what can be considered during consistency review are substantive changes. Finally, adding or revising interpretive commentary within the plan raises governance concerns. Commentary that has no legal standing, yet it risks becoming de facto policy without legislative action or public process. The BOCC recently commented on an annexation petition outside the UGB, referencing Policy 168 as justification to recommend against it, which Council supported. Staff now indicates that policy is only applicable for comp plan amendments, which is not how it's being used in practice. I encourage you to pause removals of de-designations and policy downgrades until the new UDO is complete, require fact-based justification for policy changes that are beyond technical in nature, and ensure policies shaped through years of community engagement are not hollowed in advance of the very ordinances meant to implement them without proper engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on the Zoom wishing to speak on this item? Please use the raise your hand function. Nobody? Anybody else in the gallery? Nope. All right. Chair is closing the public hearing, and we are opening it for commissioner comments and discussion. Commissioner Capers.
I have a question. Just with the with your statement that you provided before we heard some of the comments, this is going to go forward even if we vote no against it, even with some of the proposed comments that are out there?
Just like any other proposed zoning proposal before you, this would still go to the county commissioners and city council.
Sounds good.
For their consideration, but your recommendation would go with it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions, comments? I have a comment. There was a lot of public engagement, and I think this is what I'm hearing from the people. There's a lot of public engagement on the comprehensive plan. And maybe it's because this hasn't been done since 2018. This is the first go-round of the year on the new comp plan. But it did seem to have an appearance of a lack of transparency and not involvement like was involved on the comprehensive plan. And if it goes forward, well, it will go forward, but how is it going to affect the UDO? So that's all I have to say. Public hearing, well, did I already close? May I have a motion to move case A25-02, Evaluation and Assessment Report EAR, PTM Policy Amendments, forward to City Council and Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation?
Chair, regarding case A25-00002, I move that we forward this case to City Council, and it's just City Council?
And Board of County Commissioners.
and Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation for approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Hunter and seconded by Commissioner Wu to move case A25-02 evaluation and assessment reports forward to City Council and Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation. May we have the electronic voting, please?
The motion passes 7-4 with Cameron and Bailey registered as yes votes.
Thank you. What is the... Lost my paper. Item 8 on the agenda is new business. It's going to discuss the stipend program. I sent an email out. I don't know if anybody got it. It went to the group email. I think Commissioner Ritchie reports he got it. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that there is a stipend program for city and county people. I don't know how how user-friendly the program is. When I first got appointed, it was just volunteer, but then the county commissioners approved a stipend program, and you fill out a piece of paperwork, and you send it in to the clerk, and then you get your stipend. So I don't know if that's the same with the city.
The city's program is similar and is the same amount, but you need to complete your paperwork and anything else they need from you with each clerk's office. So if you're a county appointee, please work with the county clerk's office. If you're a city appointee, please work with the city clerk office, planning and development. We can send you the websites, we can send you links and so forth, but we have no control over the stipend program. You'll need to work with the clerk's offices.
Did you send that link out?
I have not yet, but I can
Yeah.
certainly do that.
Yeah, just forward the information or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I can send it to the group.
Make sure everybody knows what's going on. All right. Item 8, committee updates. Commissioner Ritchie has a committee update on the UDO.
Yeah, y'all thought you were going to be able to leave, but not yet. So the UDO committee has been reviewing in sections the current drafts of the UDO. It's not completely done yet, but all the ones that are out there we've reviewed. So we want to take a little bit of time. We have a small presentation that we'll present to you all. The goal of this is not to inform anyone's specific opinions about the UDO, or the proposed UDO, but to communicate what we as fellow planning commissioners are seeing as we're reading it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges. And ultimately, we're going to have the opportunity to vote on this, so it's just to give people an opportunity to be informed and show where you can dig a little bit deeper. Should I just say next slide when I need that? Okay, great. So I'm going to kick us off, and then we're going to pop over to Zach and then Carrie. So the way that the UDO is broken out right now is just into sort of disparate drafts. It's not following a completely like cohesive document structure yet, and so we're starting with the sort of base blocks here. Next slide. I'm going to go over the new draft zoning district standards. These look and map on somewhat directly to existing standards with some notable changes that that will have relatively large impacts. So moving on to the next slide. The key callouts, and forgive how unprofessional this deck is, everyone, but this is this is what we've got. The key callouts are basically consolidation and simplification. So the staff have, I think, done a good job of making the UDO more accessible and making the new zoning districts make a little bit more sense and be responsive to things that they've seen on the ground. There are responsive incentives for density and affordability. By responsive, I mean actually respond to what's best practice across the country, and then also what's been seen in cases in recent years. And then there's some increased flexibility within zoning designations. So ideally, we could do more by right development in a way that actually meets the city's goals, instead of having everything come up for a rezoning case that doesn't need to be, while still having the rezoning having a significant role in the work that we're doing. Next slide. So this is just to sort of show you all, no one's supposed to be able to see this, but the first thing that we would suggest looking at as you're reviewing the UDO just is this use table. This just shows the allowable uses for all of the new zoning districts. There are now, I think, 17 zoning districts, down from 21 or something like that, so there's a small reduction. This table at the beginning, if you have this in our current UDO, outlines what you can and can't do in each district. So just as a high level, we suggest that people take a look at that once you start reviewing. Next slide, please. And then I'm just gonna go through what I think are the most important zoning districts to us real quick. The goal is that this presentation for all of us doesn't take more than 15 minutes, so we're gonna make this quick. In terms of zoning districts for residential, those have been simplified significantly into these basically 4 exclusively residential zoning districts: RA, RB, RC, and then RD, which we'll get to at the end. RA is residential preserve. The previous UDO corollary for it is residential rural, I would say, with a watershed overlay. And this is basically everything outside of the UGB. It's a 3-acre lot size. It allows 1 unit in ADU, 10% building coverage. So the goal is to create space for truly sort of rural and preserved areas. The next step, residential rural, is essentially RS20. So it's a slightly denser version of what previously used to be residential rural, which had, which used to be RS20, which is residential suburban. This is 20,000 square foot lot size with 1 unit and ADU per lot, 30% max building coverage. So just for context, the previous RS20 was slightly less dense than that, but like not in a demonstrable way. And then RC, which is probably not something we're gonna see a ton of, that's currently residential rural / PDR. Basically, that's just a manufactured home designation, and the places that are gonna be called RC are already places that have manufactured homes. So that's probably not gonna be something that we see a lot. The most important thing for us, and probably the most significant change in this UDO in general, is on the next slide, which is RD. And this is residential neighborhood. So this is gonna, by and large, we got this slide cleared with staff beforehand, but that doesn't mean that everything I say is technically true, so they can fact check me later. But basically replaces residential suburban, the PDR designation, residential urban, residential compact, into these 3 subsections. RD1, RD2, and RD3. These are not their own separate zoning designations, so developers don't need to get rezoned in order to go from RD1 to RD2, but there are some requirements for each of them. So RD1 is basically residential suburban M, which we just saw a case to, it's a slightly denser residential suburban, or RU5, which allows for 8 units per acre. It basically flips that standard, and instead of talking about units per acre, it takes the amount of units that you can have in a square foot area. So this is 1 unit per 5,000 square feet, which is slightly less than 1/8 of an acre, but basically the same. Building coverage maxes out at 50%, and then standard is 3 stories or 40 feet. So that's kind of what we're used to seeing in a residential suburban, or sort of like a typical single family zoned area. RD2 is a higher density, lower size option, so it allows for 1 unit per 1,250 square feet with a max unit footprint of 800 square feet, so essentially townhomes. Max unit size is 1,200 square feet, so it's incentivizing higher density in what could be a single family lot, and makes it so that you can put, I think, up to about 4 units on what previously would have been 1. And then RD3 is, I think, probably the biggest innovation here, which allows for increased densities for buildings that ensure 8% affordability. The maximum number of units per lot is 1 unit per 625 square feet with a max height of 3 stories. So that basically means 8 unit developments or 2 4-unit buildings is the maximum density realistically. What this basically allows is what previously would have been single family can now become a denser, affordable multifamily with some affordability requirements. They got to that 8% number per staff based off just sort of best practice around the country and our own density bonus, which hasn't been utilized very much. I think that there's opportunity for that number to potentially increase, but not increase much. 8 to 10% seems to be where they're sitting. Next slide, please. The other sort of innovations here are residential mixed use and commercial mixed use. So we currently have a mixed use designation in the UDO. What this would be is primarily residential mixed use, and then allowable size is determined by height or by size designation. So 3, 5, and 8 refer to the amount of levels or stories. There's also a compact option where if you use 450 square foot units, you can increase that size. The maximum height there is going to be 13. And I think the other thing to sort of note on that is that we're taking out this sort of idea of like focusing on density per acre. We're taking out some of the ways that we've been building that in the past and taking a more simple approach to size, which is just these levels. You do have to apply for a, residential mixed use 3, 5, and 8. Those are separate zoning designations. Next one is commercial mixed use, same corollary, but just for commercial buildings, and they're slightly bigger, 3, 5, 8, and 20. These are all separate. Compact bonuses increase those maximum heights to 5, 8, 13, and 30. Staff did note that CX20, which is the one that can get to 30, would just be for downtown districts. You're not going to see that out in other spaces. I think I only have one more slide on zoning districts. And these are also 2 new, the open space districts. Conservation is its own sort of specific zoning district now, which allows for 2 acres minimum with a maximum building area of 5%. And then there's a specific zoning designation for parks now, which is a 0 minimum lot size and a maximum building area of 15%. So we're kind of setting those aside and making it so that they're not just overlays anymore. So that's the high level on actual zoning districts. There are other zoning districts. There are commercial zoning districts and industrial zoning districts. In general, they follow the same trend, which is that they're getting slightly more simple with roughly the same allowable uses. But in general, the UDO, I think, is much more interpretable under these current zoning districts. So after all that, I'm going to pass it over to Zach.
Awesome. And why don't we pop over to draft development standards, summary and review.
Sorry. I guess we were going to Carrie next.
Oh.
My bad.
Going to me. Draft environmental protection, subdivisions, and infrastructure standards. Next slide, please. So I've got this split up into 3 sections that I think are kind of the most important parts of this. So in Module 3, one thing that the new UDO will move towards is NACDO-aligned streets. That's National Association of City Transportation Officials, and that aligns with the city's Vision Zero action plan. And so this will be required for all new streets, like in a new subdivision that is actually putting in streets. So there's lots of different versions of this, but it's going to feature smaller lane width bicycle facilities, wider planted merges for street trees, and transit facilities. Next slide, please. There's a change in tree coverage and open space. So the new UDO will combine tree coverage and open space into one section. It'll expand the 7% tree coverage to all RD parcels, less than 4 acres. And it removes conservation subdivisions from the ordinance and requires preservation of primary conservation areas in all subdivisions, which is 22% preservation. Also creates an incentive structure for open space, which incentivizes public art, preservation of natural and cultural resources, and public plazas. Next slide, please. I think the coolest part of the new UDO is this sustainable development matrix. So it incentivizes development patterns that cannot be required. And it's going to be based on a point system. And so, based on the different zoning option, you are required to get a certain number of points. Next slide, please. And so you can get points by doing any number of different things. Some things that are easier to do will have a lower point. Some things that are harder to do will have higher points. So this is a way to get some really cool things in our developments without requiring them, which we are not legally allowed to do. And the next slide just has the rest of the matrix. And I think that if there are ideas for additional things to add to the matrix, that staff is open to ideas on that.
All right, let's talk development standards. And before I get into it, I just want to say thank you to the staff for all the work and time and energy that's gone into this. We had the chance to meet with the team, and truly the amount of thought and energy has been Herculean. Just lighting alone, the amount of time that got spent on that one issue was really impressive. Next slide, please. So the big picture shifts. You're going to see a bit more consolidation and reorganization. The draft brings multiple standards into a single, clearly labeled development standard section, supported by tables and diagrams. There's a shift away from tier-driven logic. A lot of draft standards are expressed as zoning-based or downtown versus other districts, rather than relying on the current UDO's development tiers in key places. And there's also more front-loaded predictability. The draft emphasizes matrices and standardized types, and I thought we were all really interested in the matrices in particular. Next slide, please. Okay. The new draft, it defines project categories with specific thresholds, uses a matrix to show which standards apply by project type. And here's how it's a little different than the current UDO. The current UDO often relies on topic-by-topic exemptions rather than one consolidated what applies when matrix. Next slide, please. Okay. This new draft, it introduces 3 pedestrian connection types tied to zoning context, types 1 through 3, specifying entrance proximity, spacing, and configuration. It also requires internal walkways along common access driveways on both sides and sets a minimum width at 5 feet. This is greater than in the current UDO, which requires internal walkways along common access driveways as well, but sets a 4-foot minimum unless accessibility code requires more and does not use the type 1 to 3 framework. Next slide, please. Bicycle parking and transit access. It applies broadly with stated exemptions for bicycle parking, and it sets short and long-term bike parking by use. It also adds detailed quality and placement rules. The transit access in the draft for sites on the current and future transit routes, the administrator may require a 6x12 concrete pad connected to sidewalks for a transit stop. Access is allowed in perpetuity. Compared to the current UDO, currently it addresses bicycle parking through tier-specific requirements and separate design standards. Pedestrian and bike connections to transit facilities are required, but the draft's pad requirement is presented as a more explicit implementation tool. Next slide, please. Vehicle access and parking. For vehicle access, the new draft, it adds and clarifies access management standards, curb cut permits, driveway spacing with standards, a default 1 driveway per lot, and corner access preferences. As these are drafts, there are a couple things here and there that are still to be inserted, and so cross-access was one of them, at least initially, as of the most recent reading. For parking amounts, this is a big difference. There's a no minimum off-street parking. Instead, it sets maximums by use and downtown versus other districts. There's also an EV readiness requirement added for lots with 6+ spaces, and then it provides pathways to exceed maximums as well. The current UDO expresses motor vehicle parking caps as a percentage of parking rate table by location and includes structured, pervious, and study-based methods to exceed maximums. Next slide, please. All right. The new draft, it requires transitions based on a zoning matrix with types A, B, and C. Each transition includes required depth, required screen category, and a building step back above 3 stories and 40 feet. It also defines multiple screen types with quantified planting and wall options and specifies limitations on what may occur within transition areas. Next slide, please. For the landscape and mass grading, it incorporates a landscape manual by reference and includes professional plan and certification expectations that are new. Mass grading triggers vegetative buffers and a revegetation requirement if development does not proceed within a defined time frame. It also links mass grading impacts to specific screening outcomes in certain zoning contexts. For the fences, walls, and retaining walls, the new draft uses tables to identify where fence and wall types are allowed by zoning and yard location with more diagram-based communication. It also adds explicit retaining wall constraints near rights-of-way and associated screening triggers. And last slide. And the lighting conversation in particular was fascinating. Thank you, staff, again, for illuminating us. So much time and thought and energy has gone into this. I can't stress that enough. For the signs, there are detailed sign area and height calculations, as well as sign types by district and clear prohibited sign rules. There's also a downtown pathway to consider certain animated signs via minor special use permit criteria. I think a good example, think of the bowl downtown. For lighting, it applies to outdoor lighting for non-residential and multifamily development. It includes minimum and maximum light levels, property line limits, and pole height caps. The key takeaways for this are just that the draft strengthens predictability through matrices, types, and consolidates standards into one section, and then several standards appear re-expressed as zoning-based or downtown versus other districts rather than tier-driven. And with that, that's all I got.
Yeah, imagine that. So we are going to have, we have our next commission meeting, and then we're going to have a special session on the UDO in late February, right?
Good evening, Bo Dobrinsky, Plan Development, February 24th.
Okay,
a special meeting, a public hearing on the new UDO, and then once again, March 10th. We expect you all to discuss the case.
Got it. So point is that we want to be in a position where we can make an informed vote by March 10th. This is a massively important thing for our community, and I think there is going to be a lot of discussion, good and bad, about it, and there's good reason for both of those things. So we would love to be the people that you come to for your initial questions, but we also have our own biases so that we suggest that y'all kind of get involved in it. We have draft memos for all the things that we just presented that are a little bit deeper, so we'll be sending those along as well. I still have to finish mine, and hopefully that can be useful. So that's it, but we're looking forward to kind of getting into this and being a part of this process for the city.
Appreciate you guys doing that, for real. That's great.
Yeah, great work, y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, and yeah, do your homework ahead of time, because, yeah, we have the one meeting at the end of February, and then I guess the agenda is going to be cleared for March, for which we will address concerns and comments that are brought up at the February meeting, but anything we can do ahead of time to make sure this stays on time would be great.
If I would, we'll be getting some information to you all in terms of some communications showing all of the various memos and studies and drafts that have been provided to the Joint City County Planning Committee. So you'll have that to review. And then obviously the full draft and proposed zoning map will be included with your packet for that meeting in February. I just want you all to know, obviously, working with the committee, but if you need any support or if you have any questions, staff is open to meeting with you or maybe meeting in small groups. I know that it's a whole lot of, very dense, right? Like it's a very, very large document. And if you all are willing, we're certainly capable of meeting with you and answering your questions and going through and giving you all the support we can. That's why we're here.
Yeah, and we're allowed to meet in a small group as long as it's less than 8 of us, because 8 is what's required for a quorum. So if anybody, that's 6 or 7 of us, or anything less than 8, you can meet with Bo for any questions between now and the final vote. Okay, number 9, staff announcements. Anything? No staff announcement. 10, adjournment at 8:44 p.m.